Put on pants.
So no cursing, Randy.
Put on pants.
I've never used anything but appropriate language at a council meeting. I don't understand.
Just throwing it out there.
Okay. Really, just.
If I didn't like you, I wouldn't make fun of you.
I didn't hear the conversation.
Sorry, Mr. Metro, we're just testing the mics.
Oh, good. Terry, can you let us know when you've got YouTube and Facebook going?
I believe they're both currently going.
Oh, good.
If anybody wants to check and make for certain, I wouldn't be opposed, but I'm checking myself right now.
John, are you recording?
Recording right now, yes.
And broadcasting? Okay, good.
So how do you file a motion maybe 30 days for this, November. So November's 30 days. I think they're supposed to do it first. So 45 days, what the days is.
Oh, no. Oh, no, who's it? Top right. Oh, no, that's good.
Looks like we're all correctly streaming to both YouTube and Facebook at the moment and recording. For those of you joining from the public, if you're muted, it's just because there's too much feedback, and actually it would be ideal if folks would mute themselves unless they're asked to speak tonight. If it ends up being a problem, I may move people back to the waiting room. Not that I'm expecting it from our great audience here, but just so you know.
Or is he?
He's calling it.
Oh, is he?
It's being moved over to into the first floor.
Terry, Scott Robinson, our council member. You know, we have the guy, little.
I guess.
Check in to see if anything works. Robinson. Like test Robinson. So call him on the phone or on video. It might also be Jake Robinson.
I know we're after 7 o'clock, but we have everybody.
Can you hear me, Ted? It's Scott
Yeah.
Robinson.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, here's Mr. Robinson. Yeah, he's on. Okay. Well, we'll keep on moving. All right.
Okay, if everybody's ready, we're going to call this meeting to order for the Borough of Morrisville regular Borough Council meeting for Monday, December 21st. Can we all rise for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance? And this moment of silence is for those 300,000 plus Americans who will not be sitting around the table this Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. Please rise.
Bye-bye.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mayor Ravella? Councilman Bowers?
Here.
Councilman Halaho?
Here.
Councilman Parker?
Here.
Councilman Paul?
Here.
Councilman Robinson?
Here.
Councilwoman Sherlock? I thought I heard Nancy earlier.
Her mic is off.
Oh, okay.
I believe she's
Here.
on. She might be muted.
Here.
Okay. Thanks, Nancy. Councilman Yeager?
Here.
Okay.
Borough Solicitor, Randy is here, right? All right. Thank you.
Scott Holbert and I are here on behalf of the firm. Yes.
Okay, moving on to announcements and presentations. I don't believe we have any.
We don't.
So we're going to move on to 5, which is public comment. I'm going to remind everybody that the rules still apply for 3 minutes, and we're going to adhere to that. This is the first time we're doing public comment mostly by Zoom, so I'm going to have to defer to our IT person as well as Mr. Mitchell to bring up those who are waiting to speak.
Oh, Mr. President, we have 3 people who signed up who are present in the room. Would you like to start there?
Yes, let's start there.
Okay, the first is Noel Sperry.
State your name and address. Yes.
If you could state your name and address for the record.
Am I close enough? Can everybody hear me?
Mhm.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Noel Sperry, Morrisville resident, 531 Prospect Avenue. First, I want to thank the borough for allowing the decoration of Robert Morris Plaza again this year. Also, thank you to the council members and residents that supplied decorations, treats, and their time. Finally, thank you to the Morrisville Business Association for donating the tree. I'd like to let everybody know that cleanup and removal of the decorations will take place on Saturday, January 16th at 11 a.m. with a rain date of January 17th at 11 a.m. if it's really miserable weather. Now I'll actually get into the statement that I wanted to read. So I've heard the term stagnant being used to describe Morrisville many times. That term has been used for decades now. Stagnant is defined as having no current or flow and often having an unpleasant smell as a consequence. Showing no activity, dull, sluggish, not growing or changing, without force or vitality. And the word stagnation is commonly used to describe a struggling economy much like ours. Synonyms for this: dormant, lifeless, dead, static, moribund, lethargic, depressed, declining. Some antonyms: fresh, active, vibrant, growing, moving, busy, spirited, energetic, and lively. When was the last time that you heard those words used to describe our town? I know people have said, why don't we just fix up all the properties on Bridge Street? Well, we have to accept that no one is going to come in and rehabilitate all of Bridge Street. If it was going to happen, it would have happened already and it would be redeveloped by now. It's sat stagnant for decades and will stay that way for some time without other development that points to a growing future in Morrisville. Williamson Park Town Square becomes a bright and shiny new gateway into Morrisville, the birthplace of Pennsylvania, and becomes a driver of new development throughout our lovely town. People keep calling for a larger police presence, better streets, even more events in the park. These things take money that is not available in the budget, as indicated by the upcoming tax increase, just to have barely enough money to survive next year. These continued tax increases are adversely affecting our aging population, which is commonly on a fixed income from retirement. And if this continues, people will potentially lose their homes to predatory developers and slumlords. Yes, there will be a tax relief package while the property is being built, but future taxes will eventually come in. In the interim, we get a higher population density that will use the park and the dike, the new amphitheater, and as long as they decide to work with the council and developers, the Morrisville Little League will get brand new ball fields. The influx of more residents will be looking for places to eat and things to do locally, which again will help existing businesses attract new businesses to start up. It'll also create a lot more usage in the park. The higher volume of people using the remaining park space in the dike will also reduce the amount of undesirable activity around that area of town. Finally, the certification of the dike will be completed, thus eliminating the extra insurance costs that residents in this area are required to carry. I'm sure you'll be selfishly threatened by people and groups to vote no against the project, some of which don't even live here nor have vested interest in our town's growth. There are going to be petitions submitted that are founded on inaccurate and outright false information and signed by people that are not residents of our town. Please read these carefully before you take them into consideration. So
No.
you will hear about environmental impacts, traffic impacts, possible flooding issues. These are issues that still need to be worked through and fall on the developers' shoulders to resolve. It's important they're addressed, and these factions and impacted neighbors should not be so myopic to continue.
You have 3 minutes.
It's 3 minutes are up.
I have 2 paragraphs.
If we start this now,
I understand.
I granted you the 37 seconds that you did for the beginning of your thing. So I'll give you another 30 seconds to finish up.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. There's a huge proposed project that's being finalized at the steel mill. It's going to bring all these people into looking for places to live. They will look at Morrisville first to buy their next home. Yes, change is scary. We can only speculate the benefits that will come from this and the new development and influx of residents. What we definitely know is what we are going to get if we're not allowed to move, if this is not allowed to move forward. A continued stagnant, slowly, painfully dying town. I see Morrisville as that girl that has no idea how beautiful she is until she gets a complete makeover. And it's only then that everybody else takes notice. Mr. McGrath recognizes our beauty and wants to give us a makeover that will make everybody notice us. So please vote in favor of and giving them the opportunity to do just that. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Debbie Smith, you might need to tilt that mic towards you a little.
I got my big shoes on today. I think I can. Everybody hear me? Good evening, everyone. I'm here Debbie Smith, 221 West Maple Ave in Morrisville. I'm here to ask the council to support the conceptual proposal by Select Morrisville for the Williamson Park Town Square project. I'm sorry. Did you hear what I said?
No.
Okay, I'm sorry. Let me see if I can get this closer. I'm asking the council to consider the conceptual proposal submitted by the Select Morrisville for the Williamson Park Town Square project. And the reason being, this project is a great project that could really help Morrisville. When I sat up there where you guys were and this first came to us, I said back then, and I'm going to say it again, I've been in this town 25 years, and all I hear is people say, this town is great. It's a great little town. It's got great potential. And it does. But it only has the potential if you recognize it and you act on it. Right now, this type of a development that Mr. McGrath is bringing to you is what's happening all over. These type of developments where people want to live, they want to shop, these little villages. I'm sure you're not living under a rock, and you've been to a lot of other towns and you've seen how they've been developed from Jersey, King of Prussia, and other areas, and up county too. Morrisville is on life support for their taxes. You are not going to be able to get the money out of the taxpayer to the volume that you need. You have to get that somewhere. This is a great kickstart for the town, and I really hope you will give it serious consideration. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Janeberger. Jane, you might have to pull that mic down a little towards you.
Okay,
Or you can even take it out and hold it. It's up to you.
that's probably worse. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, I'll try to shout. First off, I'm inquiring about the status of filling the vacancy in the first ward council position. Understand usually it's 30 days, something
Name and
after
address.
45.
Name and address for everybody.
Oh, I'm sorry, 90 West Maple Avenue, a Morrisville Borough resident, thank you. Can you just tell us, perhaps the solicitor later on will advise the status of filling that vacancy? I understand some people have submitted names. I'm here to speak in support of this concept for Select Morrisville. I've read this motion. This does not commit the borough to doing this plan as it is stated now. It really commits you to be a party to evaluate it. You have a fiduciary responsibility, and you all know that, to the borough residents here. We pay the taxes to you and to the school district. I understand baseball's concerns. Let me assure you that the Cloverleaf site, which could be a state-of-the-art facility, is under the control of the borough and the RDA, and it is safe. There have been 3 different times when these boring wells, and I'm using the wrong word, have gone down there, and they've found nothing. Believe me, there are no little green men. There are no train engines down there. I mean, I've heard all rumors. It was basically construction debris. To go down would be about 30 feet for pilings because the mix of concrete versus vegetation. So that area, at one point, DEP said grass covering of 6 inches would be fine. It'd be perfect for recreational use. So we welcome Little League. They are our guests. We are glad to host them. And if there's an alternate site, then I think that would be wonderful for us to continue to have them, since the participants in the league are primarily from Lower Makefield and Falls Township, which was farmlands in 1955 predominantly, and Falls Township was an airport, Portman Aviation. So we welcome them, but I really don't know that someone who doesn't live here should be the deciding factor of what Morrisville decides to do to move forward. We have environmental concerns, and I know this council, with its MEAC, every step of the way will consider that and make sure a development that happens is right for Morrisville, is environmentally sensitive, and will get us off of life support. We're already going 4 mills to general fund. You've got 1 left forever. Mr. Sherlock is already talking about the need to look for an earned income tax. Do some long-range financial planning for about 7 to 10 years and see where we're going to be, and then tell me what all you're going to cut first of the borough, because there'll be no place else to go for funds. We have a chance for a good development. Thank you. We have a chance for a good development. We need to make sure we get it right, and I'm looking to you to do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't want to speak for the solicitor, but if I can address the one issue you raised with the council vacancy, which I believe is on the agenda for tonight, for action by council tonight. Ms. Dreisbach tendered her resignation at the October meeting. That resignation was effective the end of October. council has, I believe, under the code, 45 days up to 45 days to accept that resignation, or it's deemed automatically accepted. And then council has 30 days to fill the vacancy. So technically we could wait until the first week in January, I believe it would be, to do it. But I believe it's going to be acted on tonight.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Next is Melissa Johnson.
Thank you. Melissa Johnson, 117 Park Avenue. I just want to again thank the council for doing your due diligence and trying to figure out what's the best plan for Morrisville going forward. I did want to speak on support of the changes proposed for the select. And I don't want to take up a whole lot of time, but as a realtor, I was thinking initially with this plan, like, oh, this will be great, thinking only of buying and selling. And I did share some of my thoughts with Ms. Sherlock. So I'll be brief, but I did want to say that when it was proposed, and I was here last month and they were talking about rentals, I was thinking that's too small. Sure, the building owners would turn over enough profit in the tax arena for us. But when I got to really thinking about the rentals, people who rent ultimately want to buy at some point. Being here in Morrisville, knowing how great it is, how much we love it, really brings a great idea to the whole forefront, in that the turnover in that really spills over into all arenas. Our drugstores, our shopping centers, Cunningham's hardware store, all of those places will benefit from the turnover of the rentals. Also, obviously, when they want to buy and they're ready to move on, if they love the area, it doesn't become stagnant for them, because let's face it, people who live there for a while are gonna be like, I shopped there enough times, I want to move on. Somebody else gets to come in and do that, and rentals turn over a whole lot sooner than individually owned properties. Not only does that help us, but then the certificate of occupancy for each of those units brings money back to the borough. So I thought that this plan that you guys came up with, initially, that's what you do, but I didn't think about the potential just in having the rentals. And I think that's an amazing, if they had that much forethought in this plan, not only because of some of the other areas that are doing the same, but they obviously know what they're doing. And that doesn't mean it doesn't have concerns to be addressed. And I think the next step would be in, what do we talk about with the traffic, and how does that affect us, and what do we do about the parking solutions? I know Ms. Sherlock brought up the last time the green space, but I think that there is a plan there. And I think all the things that make Morrisville great have an opportunity to expound on that if we just explore that, which would be that next step. And I think we've kind of beat the horse as much as we can about, is there enough interest? And I think in the meetings that I've attended, there seems to be plenty. And I think I don't know where else we could go beyond this. I don't know how much more I could be taxed as a property owner before I can't afford to live here and I watch my town degrade. How long am I going to want to stay here? As a realtor, I'm watching that.
3 minutes.
I'm watching that. So I just want to thank you for looking into this, and I hope that you vote yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Terry, do we have anybody on Zoom who has utilized the raise hand feature?
Not yet, but if you'd like to make public comment, please raise your hand on Zoom and we'll add you to the list.
Where's the raise hand feature?
I believe it's under reactions. If you, or no, wait, I'm sorry. It's, I have slightly different options since I'm the admin. Oh, yeah. Well, the clapping hand works just as well. I see we have a couple so far.
Well, why don't you just pick the first one and...
Okay, I see Jim O'Brien. I think he might have had his hand up first. Jim, would you like to address the council?
Thank you. And thank you, council, for hearing me tonight. My name is Jim O'Brien. I'm the president of Morrisville Little League. I live at 1000 University Drive in Lower Makefield. My kids have played baseball and softball at Morrisville Little League for 10 years since we moved to Pennsylvania. They are members of the Pennsbury School District, as we are voting members of that community. But really, we are a part of the Morrisville community as well. My family and I have spent more time down in Williamson Park in those fields than I have anywhere else in Lower Bucks County. I can guarantee you that, outside of my own home. And I think I'm representative of a number of families that have contributed many years of time, not just in the past 5, 10, 15 years, but in the almost 70 years of history that Morrisville Little League has been the center of Williamson Park. And it's not just a representation of the current and activity that's going on in the field. And I know that people have questioned the time that people are down there, but there are kids in those fields all the time. That field is packed. And even in the wintertime, when fields are shut down and you can't be outside, we go inside and use our cages there. We are as much a part of the fabric of Morrisville Borough as anyone. And the representation that we have is inclusive of Morrisville Borough families. And I think you're going to hear from a number of them tonight, current, former players, and families who are going to support Morrisville Little League. It is not my position to tell the council or even ask the council what you should do regarding this development. That's a decision that the council will have to make. But what I can tell you is that the most recent proposal, which leaves one field in Morrisville, in Williamson Park for Morrisville Little League, will be the death of our league. And so if there are individuals on council, and I know there are, I know you've spoken up and you've said to me in the past, your heart is with Morrisville Little League. You want to see us stay. Any sort of development has to be accommodating of Morrisville Little League, maintaining our presence in Williamson Park. We cannot move our complex. If it's going to be that, it's moving it entirely. You can't separate the complex into multiple places. This is a community. It's not just a set of ball fields that kids play on. And that community is based on volunteers who work together, based on families who come together and let their kids play across multiple parks all together and join in that community. We take care of Williamson Park. We clean the trash there. We operate basically
30 seconds
to the police force there in many ways and keeping trouble out of the park. So I ask to consider Morrisville Little League as you guys think about these decisions. We need continuity of play. We can't have a disruption. Even a season disruption will destroy the league and walk families away. We need co-located presence because we need to have families ages 3 to 12 at a minimum crossing back and forth between fields. And that's not even inclusive of the 13 and older category of kids who are playing for us.
3 minutes.
Field. So I appreciate your time. Please consider our requests and hopefully we can work together regardless of what the decision is on the development. Thank you.
Thank you. Terry, who's next?
To correct my earlier statement, if you click on participants, I believe somebody indicated that it's the bottom right to raise hand. We have currently about 5 people. So if the folks on Mary's iPad would like to unmute themselves, I believe you're next. You're still currently muted, however.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
We can. Please state your name and address.
Okay, my name is Mary Renda. I live at 343 Crown Street in Morrisville, and I'm here with my husband, Don Rice, and I would like my 3 minutes, and he would like his 3 minutes also. Okay?
Go ahead.
Is that all right?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. First, I strongly urge council not to vote on this agenda item 9J, which is the Williamson Park development in this meeting. And the reason that I ask you not to do this is because of the fact that due to COVID restrictions and the fact that you just got the ability to put public comments on Zoom, there are probably a lot of Morrisville residents who have not been able, who will not be able to comment tonight. Certainly at the last regular meeting, There were very few people that could comment because of the COVID restrictions and having to come down and comment in person. I would like you to give more time and more advertisement to Morrisville residents as to how they can participate and give comments on this really controversial, huge, disruptive, and very impactful development. I want to say that the best use of the land where Williamson Park is located is a park, the way it is right now. As you know, the park floods. I know that the borough is working on a plan to divert flood water from the canal into the river up above the Calhoun Street Bridge and put a pumping station in the park. And this is elaborate and very expensive. And as you know, with climate change, we're having more frequent and more intense storms. And so floodwaters are only going to rise, and we may have more frequent floods. And so we don't know in the future if this is going to work. If there were a development in there with all of those six apartment buildings in the park, plus a shopping center, it would be a disaster. I need you guys to think about that, please, and women. And putting the development there would only make things worse, because as of right now, a lot of the park is in grass or gravel or ball fields and whatever. And the rain infiltrates. If there's all those buildings and all that concrete and all that asphalt there, the water won't be able to sink into the ground, and it will make flooding worse. Building in floodplains is no longer considered good practice. Other states and in the United States buys back properties that are built in floodplains to reduce the impact on people and expenses to communities and the individuals. The park needs attention. It needs more care. It needs more facilities for people to use. Thank you. John?
May I go now?
Yes, go ahead.
My name is Donald Rice. I live at 343 Crown Street in Morrisville. I have 2 points I would like to make. One is the technical point I have raised with council members about public comment. I thank you for allowing public comment via Zoom. I am disappointed that we got 8 hours of notice, not even. I think I heard it at noon today that you were going to do this. I encourage you to develop a policy, a council policy on public comment during this pandemic time. It's difficult, I know. So please develop a policy, put it on your website so we know in advance that at the next meeting, and its comments going to be by Zoom or email, whatever your policy is, and tell us where we will be able to find the information so we can join the Zoom meeting and make the comment. Second, relates to the item 9J on your agenda. And there's much about it that I don't agree with, but there's one thing that really upsets me. And that is bringing in the Bucks County Redevelopment Authority to take the land away from the churches. There's not a single member of council, any of the staff, with the exception of the solicitor, who have even talked to the churches, the people in the churches, the pastor, Pastor Rupert, Pastor Calvin, Pastor Maggie. These are nice people. Talk to them. To go in there and take their land away, and the only communication they've had from the borough is, we are where you exist and we'll let you know if there's anything important you should know. And you haven't even told them about the meeting tonight, where you're authorizing the taking of their land. I know I've heard council members say, oh, we're just voting to go ahead and let them do their studies to see if it's feasible to do the development. Well, you're doing one thing that's going to really matter, and you're voting to take the land away from the churches. You're not voting to study and see if you are. You're voting to take it away without so much as having said hello to these people. Go talk to them. I know that they don't want to find themselves in the position that they are in. They do not want to decide this issue for Morrisville. They just want to be treated with dignity and respect, and they have not been treated that way to this point. So please, go talk to them. go look them in the eye. I'd say shake their hand, but yeah, it's COVID, you can't. But please speak with the churches, and you might be happier with the results than if you just go in and take from the poor and give to the rich. Thank you.
Who's up next, Terry?
I believe Barbara Bauer, if you could unmute yourself, it's your turn for comment.
Yes, hello. My name is Barbara Bauer. I live at 505 Woodland Avenue in Morrisville. I've been a resident of Morrisville my entire life. My family has been here, my grandparents, way back. I honestly don't know the year, but been here for many, many years, involved in the community. Just want to say that first, I'm against the development of Williamson Park, especially in this manner. We do not need any more apartments, condos, etc., that will eventually become Section 8, just like other apartments in this town has done in recent years. This isn't just my opinion, it's the opinion of every member of my family that's been involved with Morrisville Little League since its inception. Both of my grandparents were involved from day one when the charter was established for the Little League. My parents continued the tradition. Now my husband and I continue that along with my brothers and now my children. I've had put 4 children who have played through with Morrisville Little League through the program. There's not a better program around. The fields are maintained by the volunteers. Yes, there's borough that come and clean up the trash and everything like that, but they're not down there cleaning up the fields. They're not down there lining the fields, making sure everything is cleaned up for the games. I'm sorry, there's a lot of misinformation going around about that because I'm one of the people that is down there doing that along with family members. The idea of splitting up the fields and moving them to various locations is just outrageous. Try maneuvering 3 or 4 kids through ball games throughout the day and doing it at different locations. It's hard enough at times when it's in one location, it's in walking distance, especially when myself and my husband are also coaching. We don't drop our children off to be babysit by other coaches at the fields. We're there at their games. We're there while they are participating. We're there during cleanup days. I just cannot understand thinking moving the fields around is going to, and have them in various locations is going to help anything or anyone at this point. What happens with all the grant money that's been secured for the lights that are installed down in the fields? That was done through grants through the state. I mean, you know, $200,000 worth of grants. That's just going to go away and we're not going to have fields with lights. It's very important to have fields with lights to be able to have other tournaments and so forth to help raise money for the leagues. The
30
league does
seconds.
not make money just through registration. There's a lot of fundraising involved that we need to be able to make the league run properly. We need improvement in our town, but we need to start with the downtown first. It's a disgrace to ride through that town and see what it looks like. And it just is getting worse and worse as every year goes by. Morrisville children don't have much available to them, but the one thing they do have is Morrisville Little League. And the tradition of taking away and honoring our 55 team like this is just a disgrace in my opinion. Thank you.
Thanks. Terry, who's next?
Looks like Steve Fowler. If you could unmute yourself, it's your turn for comment.
Okay. Thank you, Council, very much. My name is Stephen Fowler. I live at 444 Hillside Avenue in Morrisville. I've lived here for about 16 years now, and I absolutely love it. I'm asking the Council to vote no for several reasons. The first is that there's a major problem with the Select Morrisville LLC's proposal. If you look on slides 11, 15, 16, 20, and 27, and slide 13, you will see that the boundary of the east boundary of the proposed development actually extends and includes the Morrisville Dike, the Delaware River Dike. And I think that is absolutely wrong. It should not include the Dike area. I do not believe that this was a mistake on the part of the developers. I believe it is an intentional placement, and that they have plans for putting in a river walk or whatever you want to call it in that area, and it should not occur. The other feelings are that if you're going to include the Delaware River Dike, why did you include the west side of Delmore Avenue? It makes no sense to have the boundaries where they are. And then I would also like to ask the council, have you approved those boundaries given by the developers? I really do have a lot of questions on that. There has been no information of which I'm aware as to the costs and the impacts to infrastructure or to the town with such a development going through. And I understand that it has been said that, well, we're not going to know what the costs are until we see the development proposal. You have to have some idea as to what is going to happen, what money is going to be required and going to be needed by the town going forward, what investment you're going to have to make in the infrastructure with this type of development. Surely council would have asked for their own engineer to be studying the impacts that it's going to have on every part of the infrastructure. Thank you very much. I'm asking that you vote no to the proposal at this time, and that the proposal itself needs to be restudied and reissued by the Select Morrisville LLC. Thank you.
Thank you. Terry, who's next?
Next, it looks like Nicole and Mohammed Ramen. Could unmute yourselves.
Yes, we'd like 3 minutes each, please.
Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Nicole Ramen, and we live at 155 Hillcrest Ave in Morrisville, and we've also been here about 15 years. Well, on the surface, this project may seem promising. I do have some concerns. My biggest concern by far is just the loss of parkland. Studies show that towns with more parkland have higher property values than those with less parkland. And once it's taken away, it's pretty rare that it's ever given back. And it is nice to have a large open space for kids to play, folks to walk, and so on, all the things that it's currently used for and has been used in the past. As for economic consideration in the long run, studies in general have shown that in many times apartments cost more in services than they bring in taxes. And another concern is that although these are intended to be high-end apartments, I'm concerned that if they're unable to fill them after a while, that it will become more like the apartments that we already have plenty of in town. And I just don't think that's a very good thing to do at this point. Thank you.
Hi, so my primary concern is the last one that my wife mentioned. Basically, I'm very unsure about this. The reason is, it all sounds good, and we all know the problems of the town, and we all want to see the town improve. We have a vested interest in the town. The scale worries me, and the risk factor really worries me. If this works out, it'll be a really good thing, I think. But if it doesn't work out, it really can have a very disastrous impact. The reason is it's much larger in scale than the other apartment complexes that we already have in town, which we have way too many of. And I think, if we're honest with ourselves, we know this hasn't been very good for the town. And having 6 more buildings in such massive scale, and if it really doesn't work out and people get desperate and they declare bankruptcy, this has some change of ownership and suddenly turns into yet one or more of these apartments, it's really going to irrevocably change the character of the town and probably do it very drastically. So I really want the people in decision-making authority to really look at this very carefully. And if this is a gamble, or we're taking a big chance here, I really don't think we should go down this path, because if we do, really there's not going to be much turning back based on the scale of the thing, scale of the development plans that I see. So I think that's it for me. I hope this all goes well, and that we all put our heads together and hearts together and figure out a good solution.
Thank you.
Thank you. Terry, who's next?
I believe Deborah Colgan has been waiting. If you could unmute yourself.
Hi. Good evening. Debbie Colgan, 120 West Hendrickson Avenue in Morrisville. I encourage council to either table or vote no on the agenda item related to Williamson Park, Town Square Center. A decision to devote unlimited borough resources to a proposal that has not had public discussion is irresponsible. Due to the pandemic, public awareness on local issues is severely limited. COVID restrictions hamper the ability for public comment to be heard by council and their fellow neighbors. The technical problems during the only council-held public meeting in November prevented many from participating. The meeting held by Select Morrisville in December was to give opinions to the Select Morrisville team. It was not a public hearing. It provided no information on costs and impacts to the borough or if any revenues would be realized. Council is considering going in a direction that is completely different to the vision developed during revitalization planning, which was publicly discussed. In the blink of an eye, when people are locked down without making accommodation, it considers action on this incredibly important decision without ensuring that the information has been fully disseminated and that you have heard from your residents and stakeholders. Understand that the actual amount of open space that the developer says will remain is misrepresented and grossly exaggerated. They are including the entire levee as open space, and that's over 7 acres. While the levee is a nice walk, you can't play basketball on it, and it cannot be included when considering the amount of open space as a result of this project. What else is the developer sugarcoating? Shouldn't we find out before we start working for Select Morrisville? Everybody wants Williamson Park to be better cared for, and there are many ways to do that now. Instead of paying a finance director or a borough manager to help move a nebulous project forward, we should pay public works staff to paint the benches in Williamson Park and find out how we can get some real trash cans. Instead of hiring engineers to decide what our park should look like, tap the creative pool of residents right here by giving them a welcoming, inclusive, and effective mechanism to improve our
30
parks.
seconds.
I encourage council to get actual details about the impacts and cost of this project before any votes are cast. Please arrange for public hearings to make sure that residents are informed, and just as important, ensure that each of you has heard from us before you make any decisions. Many years ago, the boroughs of Morrisville accepted the generous gifts from forward-thinking philanthropists and executed a long vision for the public good. Will you be the ones to put an end to it? Council members can respect
3 minutes
by keeping Williamson Park intact and directing developers to more suitable projects. Williamson Park is not replaceable and cannot be removed and relocated elsewhere. Think you.
Thank you. Terry, who's next?
Next up, I think we have Matt Babel. Forgive me if I'm mispronouncing your name. Just reading
No, you have it. Thank you very much. How you doing? I'm Matt Babel. I'm at 410 Ramsey Road in Yardley. I was down in Morrisville when my sons were 9 through 14. I'm asking the council to vote no for this. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I understand that many are concerned that it's a lot of Lower Makefield, but every kid in Morrisville knows Morrisville baseball. I've been a coach there for many teams, my 2 sons' teams, and have spent numerous hours picking up trash, bringing my own tools down to clean the fields, blowers, vacuums. I've taken off so many Fridays to cut the lawn in that large field and fields. I've done it myself, done sprinklers. We've done a ton of stuff. We set up community things. Every kid down there loves that field. It's not just Lower Makefield. And it's a great institution. It's a great building. We're a part of a whole 2013 state championship team. Again, my son's playing D1 ball now. The other kid that he's with is at West Point. I have a number of kids that have gone to college and they formed bonds with members of all communities down there. Yes, they can go to Pennsbury, but we chose to go down to Morrisville. I spent hundreds of hours down there maintaining fields and bringing that whole area back to life. I would hate to see it go away for that whole community down there. I think it was a great thing. I think it brings in revenue to the field. I've shelled out plenty of money down that Dairy Queen, taking out kids after games. And I really would hate to see something so great that's been around for over 65 years go away in the blink of an eye. I just don't understand that the oldest thing in Morrisville is the one thing you're going to try to get rid of and relocate. And that's what somebody said earlier. Splitting it up in 4 different areas, it's just not going to work. And you want that whole community feel, that whole safeguarded area. There's plenty of people around. The lighting, the facilities, the crowd, the place to go grab a hot dog after work. It's just a great place to be. And I would hate to see it go away. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks. Terry, who's next?
I believe we've got Britt Montoro and Ian. Your last name is being cut off. You could unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, my name is Britt Montoro. I live at 937 West Trenton Avenue in Morrisville. I have been a renter for the past 7 years in Morrisville. And I want to speak for the renters who are here tonight and for those who are not being spoken for. Morrisville is rapidly gentrifying, whether you see it or not as homeowners. This proposal needs to be shot dead in the sand before it ever gets anywhere. We should not be considering this redevelopment plan for many reasons. It will price the residents who already live here, the many renters who are living here, working here, and spending here alongside you. Those who matter, they matter to you. They matter, they are listening to what you are thinking and what you are doing. The fact that this was all done behind closed doors to see if it could be just shoved through quite nicely says a lot about what is being considered here. We need transparency. We do not need this. We do not need this redevelopment plan. We don't want to keep pricing people out of Morrisville who currently live here and who are trying to work and live and spend here. If you enjoy the Delaware and you enjoy Williamson Park and you enjoy your walks and your rides, then you shouldn't want to destroy that land. You shouldn't want to get rid of any more land and open space that we so desperately need, especially in the middle of a pandemic and a global climate crisis. Please keep in mind that people deserve housing and affordable housing in Morrisville, not more luxury apartments, not higher cost of living, and no more discrimination against renters who deserve to live, work, and spend here just as much as the homeowners do. Say no. Thank you.
Thanks. Terry?
I believe we have an Eva Kaptner. Bushnell? I can't quite pronounce your last name.
Yeah, thank you very much. Very well said. My name is Eva Kaptner. I am living on 85 Central Avenue in Morrisville. And thank you to the council for letting me speak. I'm a recent resident. I have moved here not quite a year ago, but I have made the conscious decision to move to the park because that's what spoke for Morrisville, being a foreigner, not being from here, but this heritage that you have of green space, the history that Morrisville carries as a town for many centuries, and then also the Little League 1955. These were things that attracted me. These were things that were actually put out to me when I first came here. And I've been to Morrisville as a visitor way before just this year. So I was very sad to hear about the plans of transforming this, and I have reached out to people. I've talked to the community and to my neighbors, which I'm very grateful to have met along the way. We started a petition. I would like to bring that to the attention of the council, and I think that you have received an email about it as well, and it's also been put into the chat here. The petition, we have just started it on Saturday, and it has reached well over 300 signatures. And walking around in the neighborhood, talking to neighbors, it has come to my attention that many people weren't aware of this development, which really startled me. I have also attended a planning commission meeting a few days ago, and it has been said that there was a survey in January and February of 2020, and that residents here have been made aware of the plans. Speaking with many of the residents, they had absolutely no clue. that this has been going on, and they were not very happy. Even COVID, of course, it was difficult, but of the failure to communicate with the residents. So I really encourage you to do better and also to post things in advance. And I know some people are not as technically savvy as others, so it needs to be much more promoted. You need to speak to people. What I have witnessed here, it's beautiful neighborhoods that work together, that support each other, everybody. We don't need to cater to rich people building up luxury housing, pushing out the ones that have been here for generations.
30 seconds.
Yes, and please do read the petition. Please share it. I would urge council to really carefully consider what you're voting on, what heritage, what we're losing. And I have to say, what has been said before me, those are also points that are part of this petition and that I absolutely second. So please consider that. Please consider the people. Please consider the residents here and talk with us again before you make a decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Terry, who's next?
Looks like Joe Marlow is the last with his hand raised. If anyone else would like to comment after Joe, please make sure you have your hand raised in Zoom. Thank you.
Joe, if you're ready, you can unmute yourself.
I'm not seeing anything from Joe. Should we take someone else? Oh, he is reconnecting. Joe Marlow, are you there?
I apologize for that. I'm trying to do it through my phone. I wasn't prepared. But am I okay now to go?
Yeah, you're on. You have 3 minutes. Please state your name and address for the record.
Thank you. Joe Marlow, 248 Stockham Ave. Again, I'm not really prepared. I am a teacher, and honestly, it's been a little hectic these past few months that I know you guys been discussing this, but I just wanted to pull up a couple things that I've been seeing a lot going around. I see people say things like, we should not be funding baseball, and they haven't paid their bills to the borough. They will have other space. The players in Morrisville Little League don't even live in Morrisville. So to go through those, I just want to address those as a person that doesn't have any children involved in the Little League. Live by myself. To the first item, I've coached baseball and also served on the board of the Little League I coached baseball in. Obviously, everyone knows that these people are volunteers and the positive impact having youth organizations such as this serve. And additionally, while I cannot speak what currently occurs, when I served on the board in Levittown International many years ago, I know that the township was not only charging a head tax or whatever you want to call it per player, they were actually providing our league with what worked out to be about $10 or $15 per player. So I certainly understand we're in a much different situation than they are. We're a smaller community. We have a significantly smaller tax base. But similar to the school district, when you're working with a smaller tax base and a smaller organization, breaking the cost down per taxpayer has a larger impact. While we may not be able to subsidize the Little League in the same manner as Bristol Township has done in the past and may still, I do think it's inappropriate to be adding borough fees to the Little League at all. Just like the school district, the Little League provides a service to our community regardless of whether or not you have children. As far as the space goes, they say, we'll give them other places, but you really, when you're talking about a Little League, you can't break it up. When people are maintaining the field as volunteers, they're cutting the grass, lining the fields, restocking the concession stands. You shouldn't put a larger strain on people that are coming after their 9-to-5 jobs to help teach our kids and make their world a better place by spreading them out and creating this logistical nightmare. As far as some or even the majority of players not being from Morrisville,
30 seconds.
Where do our children from Morrisville play soccer? I know we have a lot of little league kids that come here from Yardley and other places, right? But when they play soccer, they go to Yardley or Falls Township, right? I don't have children, but that's my understanding. With all that said, I'm not necessarily opposed to doing something. I also have not been actively engaged in this conversation as I should be as a member of this community. I just ask that you take the time to consider what you're hearing from our neighbors prior to backing yourselves and us into a corner. Thank you.
Thank you.
Looks like we have two more for comment. Next, Andrew Lady, could unmute yourself.
How you doing? Andrew Leidy, 227 West Palmer Street. I grew up on 484 Hillside Avenue. I lived here my whole life. I just want to express my desire to keep Morrisville Little League in Williamson Park. I played there when I was 6 years old until I was 17 years old. My older son played there from when he was 4 years old till he was 14 years old. My younger son currently plays there now, and I coach. And I would like to give them the opportunity, if they do decide to stay in Morrisville and raise their kids here, they can have their children and they can coach their sons at Morrisville Little League in Williamson Park. It's a wonderful program. And I'd like to thank Yardley and Lower Makefield for what they do for Morrisville Little League, because if it wasn't for them, it wouldn't be as well run as it is now. That's all.
Thank you.
All right, for our last public comment that I currently see, we've got Amanda.
Hello, I'll be quick. My name is Amanda. I live at 654 Barclay Ave. I just wanted to make you aware, in case you didn't see it, that a petition was started against the project on Saturday morning. And since Saturday morning, we've already gained over 300 signatures. And I just wanted to point out Article 1, Section 27 of the Pennsylvania Constitution, natural resources and the public estate. The people have a right to clean air, pure water, and the preservation of the natural, scenic, historic, and aesthetic values of the environment. Pennsylvania's public natural resources are the common property of all people, including the generations yet to come. As trustees of these resources, the Commonwealth shall conserve and maintain them for the benefit of all the people. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Looks like we have one more for comment. Jen Bauer.
Hi, my issue is I agree with a lot of the people online saying ballparks.
Name and address.
Oh, sorry.
Please.
Jennifer Bauer, 441 North Pennsylvania Avenue, Morrisville. My concern, I agree with the parents. When you have ball fields, it is so much easier when they're all together. But my biggest concern is that we're looking to put apartments in and not condos. I have apartments connected to me. They change over every 2 years. I don't think we're going to get the tax base that we would from condos, because those people are actually investing into their property that we would see with apartments. So I don't know financially that difference, how that would be. But I know that, we have had so many people in the apartment next door. They don't stay in Morrisville. They're moving out of Morrisville because of the school district. When people walk through town, they're surprised that my age group is still here. I have kids in the high school, but most of the people, by the time they hit high school, have moved on from Morrisville. They're not staying here. And I think if we do this and not address the schools as an issue as to why people are moving out of Morrisville, then we're only doing half the issue. So overall, I think it's a two-part problem, and we need to look at it as a two-part problem. So that's it.
Thank you.
All right. Next, it's like Cheryl. You could unmute yourself.
Yep. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having this meeting. Just a few things.
Excuse me. Can you state your name and address for the record, please?
It's required. Thank you.
Yes. Sorry about that. Cheryl and 63 Central Avenue, Morrisville.
Do you have the last name?
Schweitzer, Tanzillo. Sorry. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay. So a few things, and some of these kind of talked about in the planning meeting a few weeks back. So right behind our house there, I think on the plan is where they were planning on putting a grocery store, and the architect even said that it's kind of in an awkward place. It's just kind of like right in the middle of like nowhere. All of the other businesses were kind of, outside, built around like on Bridge Street or Delmore or whatever. And the grocery store was kind of like right in the middle, like right between the baseball field and the tennis court. So, and I think they were going to take a look at that. And if the grocery store gets moved, and we also talked about the amphitheater, which I believe had parking for 6,000. If there's something else that they looked at in kind of reducing that, potentially couldn't we relook and take a look at that and keep the baseball fields there? Because, again, and the baseball fields are used. The people do use the tennis courts, and anybody who lives around here or sees the kids were just using the hills with the snow, and they're still using it and snowing down the hills and things like that. So some open space is really important to make sure we leave as much open space as we possibly can, and still kind of make it a win-win situation. And also, with the traffic and things like that, I know they keep saying they're going to address the traffic and things like that, but those that are on Park Avenue and Central Avenue getting out of those streets with the apartments and things like that, we are hearing, yes, there's going to be a solution, but we want to make sure that the solution that is provided to us is, we want to make sure that we understand what that solution is, because we're kind of, trapped in the street to begin with on, when it's, when traffic is heavy. And I guess finally, we talk about, the field.
30 seconds.
The field flooding and things like that. And there's going to be a solution for that. But I guess what kind of contingency plan backup, or what happens if, our residents start, flooding and things like that? What kind of support or what's going to happen with the homeowners if that happens? So those are kind of like the big concerns, and,
All right, 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
They took care of the flooding. They fixed the drain.
We do have a couple more for public comment, if you guys are ready.
Go ahead.
Let's see, Rich Brigham. You have to unmute yourself, Rich. We can't hear you at the moment. There you go.
Hi. Yes, my name is Rich Brigham. I am from 608 Prospect Avenue, Morrisville. Morrisville pays one of the highest taxes in Pennsylvania, and I'm not sure if anyone else who has spoken really understands this fact. We have no new revenue. We have old buildings that are eyesores of the community. We need this new development for new tax revenue and new shops to brighten up this town. We are losing good neighbors from high taxes and horrendous schools. Return to the park. The church has to be cleaned up from the drug dealers and users. How many that have spoken tonight have been to the park in the last 365 days? Don't make COVID the scapegoat of why this should not be voted tonight. My wife and I are for this new development. We need the new shops. There is nothing this town offers except for a few local shops like Cunningham Hardware. The park is not utilized. We are currently do not have the luxury apartments and need the taxable income. Everyone wants to stay the same with no new development, but we can't stay status quo. We can't take another tax hike, or worse yet, allow the EIT to come into effect. Please vote yes for this development. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we've got Michael Barkin.
Hi, this is Michael Barkin. I'm at 751 Gordon Drive in Lower Makefield. We started off in Morrisville for many years and started off participating in Morrisville Little League, where I've coached, I've been on the board, etc. This whole situation to me with this development kind of reminds me of one of a childhood fable, Aesop's fables, the goose that laid the golden egg. And I kind of equate Morrisville Little League to being that. And let me explain. Because Morrisville Little League keeps crime, drugs, and keep out of the park and keeps our children active in the park. It's open space that can never be replaced. And because of that, just like the fable states, eventually the goose is cooked and there is no more park. And once it's gone, it's not going to be replaceable, okay? So this plan totally will bypass that and ultimately will cause Morrisville to have to spend more money because you're going to need more resources to man this project that you're not even taking into account. More police, more sewage, upgrade of electrical grid, etc. Traffic studies that need to be done. All of these things. And it's not going to be the savior that people think it's going to be. So I just kind of wanted to voice that. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate you letting me speak.
Thank you.
Melissa Duvalstorf.
Hi, yes, my name is Melissa Duvalstorf. I am at 515 Woodland Ave. I am a renter. I just want to first start by saying thank you for holding this forum. I wish that it wasn't people that I know that had to tell everyone that this was happening. I wish that it was more publicized. I agree with everyone that's spoken that says we need to have more public opinion about this and we need more public comment. Decisions like this with the council need to take into account what residents of Morrisville are thinking. I want to speak about the fact that we would be taking public land that we may not be able to get back and putting it towards retail spaces and restaurants and apartments that may not fund the borough like people think that they will. That money will go towards the owners of those places more than it will into the borough. We would be funding people who are developing and we would get nothing out of it because when the time comes that we want that land back, it would cost us more in the long run. We will not have public spaces. We will not have a park. And I don't have kids. I am recently moved here. I am a millennial and part of the reason I say that I'm a millennial is because they think that these apartments will attract millennials. We cannot afford $1,700 apartments. So already I agree with people saying that those spaces will not be filled to begin with. I'm done. Sorry. I agree with what a lot of people were saying. I don't have kids. I think that park spaces are essential for kids and their developments. And if we take that away, we won't be giving our children the chance to have a space and an outlet outside. Thank you.
Thank you.
At the moment, I see no one else with their hand up in Zoom.
Okay. We're going to move on then.
How do I would like to say something if I can, if it's not too late.
State your name and address, and you have 3 minutes.
Yes, my name is David Novick. We actually own 3 properties in Morrisville Borough, myself and my wife, and I've been a resident of Morrisville for 20 years. One of the reasons that I actually moved to Pardon?
We need an address for the record.
Oh, 501 Hamilton Boulevard, Morrisville, Pennsylvania. The reason that we bought the property in Morrisville in the first place is because one of the things that I saw that was unique about Morrisville was some of the features that it had. The fact that it had the history. Many of you probably know that Morrisville missed being capital of the United States by 2 votes. The access to transportation and access to the river. And I thought that with a proper redevelopment plan, much like they've done in the New Hope Lambertville area, much like has been done in starting in Bristol, some of the work that was done in the business district years ago when they started around the early 2000s, that Morrisville had the potential to really be a destination and a tourist area, which would help alleviate some of the issues with the tax base, which would help the community as a whole, as well as provide for some of the needier residences. I feel that this project, with the backing behind it and the decline of the Williamson Park area with the floods from the mid-2000s, the closing of the pool and the recreation area, this is our best hope to revitalize the borough. And understandably, there will certainly be some traffic issues, but I feel that the benefit to the borough overall, the fact that you will bring in an influx of professionals and businesses, as well as hotels, restaurants, the fact that they do have a plan for open space, I do feel would have a positive impact on the borough. And I think just looking at some of the issues as far as, you know, the history of the park or whatever is rather short-sighted when you're looking at the opportunities as a whole. The other thing is there is talk about developers maybe considering this project in Trenton, and I think that this is probably our best and last hope to really revitalize the borough. And I urge the council to consider that. Honey, would you like to add anything?
Just also the concerns about the schools. And I think that the influx of business would help to alleviate some of the tax burden with the schools. Morrisville has done a great job of what they can with the school system, but that continues to be a source of tremendous undertaking for the teachers and the community and the tax base. So any new development would certainly be a substantial help in that area as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I believe we do have someone who joined as iPhone with their hand up. If you want to go ahead and state your name and address, iPhone. Oh, there you are.
Yes, hi. My name is Rocco Cavello. I'm at 109 North Delmore Avenue. I've been a resident of Morrisville for 33, maybe 34 years now. And one of the best things I liked about Morrisville was that it did have the park. And I'm against any redevelopment of the park. And I want to use this analogy to try to get this point across. Now, if New York City was going broke and the mayor says, well, we're just going to tear down Central Park, right, to drive more business, to make more money, it would be insane. Now, Williamson Park is about the only gem left in Morrisville. During the summertime, on a cool summer night, the baseball lights for the fields are up and they're playing baseball, and you hear the crack of bat and the roar of the crowd, and it's not for Major League Baseball players, it's for the children and these memories that they'll have and they'll take with them for a long time to come. And for me too, just to enjoy the sound of it. And it's the same thing during the wintertime too. Today, for the last 3 days, children have been sleigh riding down that hill right there. And you just can't say, I want to make more money and take this away. There's Bridge Street, for crying out loud. There's this Stockman building. And all that development area over there where you have the fireworks building and that hotel over there. You have all that space, but yet you want to take the one gem that Morrisville has. So I'm saying, please don't tear down the park. That's all.
Thank you.
All right, I believe that was the last hand up for public comment.
All right, so we're going to move on. We're going to move on to item 6, which is approval of the minutes. 6A, approval of the minutes for the Morrisville Borough Council regular meeting of October 19th, 2020. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? 6B, motions in order to approve the Borough of Morrisville Council special meeting of October 27th, 2020. Can I have a motion?
So moved. So moved.
Second.
Second.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? 6C.
Mr. Parker,
Yeah.
excuse me, Mr. Parker. There were a couple corrections that I sent to Scott Mitchell today. I just wanted to make sure that he makes everybody aware of that. That particular motion, I mean, the 27th, I believe at the top of the page, it was listed as a 7 p.m. meeting, but it's actually 5:30. I think he's just going to make that change. I'm sorry I didn't get that in there before we voted. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because we had 2 meetings that night. So I just want to clear that the 5:30 meeting is 5:30, even though it says 7 o'clock at this time. Thank you.
But no change to the content, just the time.
No,
I missed
just the
that.
time. Just the
Yeah,
time
okay,
at the
thank
top.
you.
5:30. It was 6 o'clock, right?
6 o'clock, yeah.
Yeah, it was 6 o'clock.
6. Thanks.
Right. 6C, a motion is ordered to approve the Morrisville Borough Council budget meeting of October 27th, 2020. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Motion and a second, and any discussions about it? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? 6D, motion is in order to approve the Borough of Morrisville Council budget meeting of 11/16/2020. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved.
Nancy, second.
A motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passed. Moving on to finance. 7A is the treasurer's report. And 7B is a call for a motion to approve the bill list. And I guess pay the bill.
So moved, Nancy.
Second. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none. We'll do a roll call.
Councilman Bowers?
Yes.
Councilwoman Halaho?
Yes.
Councilman Parker?
Yes.
Councilman Paul?
Yes.
Councilman Robinson?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sherlock?
Yes.
And Councilman Yeager?
Yes.
Okay. Motion passes. Moving on to 8, reports. 8A, do we have a mayor's report?
No, Mr. President, he's not here tonight. And if I can just inform you, since you're not in the room, the police chief, as part of his report, would like to introduce to council his part-time police officer candidate, Andrew Nagel.
Okay. So we'll move on to 8B, the police chief's report. Go ahead, chief.
Good evening, council. The mayor has asked me to remind everyone that while there are soft costs involved in hiring a part-time dam officer, the cost savings outweigh those soft costs during the first shift they work. The mayor has also asked me that he has stated in a public meeting for a few years now that part-timers actually pay for themselves with savings to the department, like I said, within the first 12 hours they work. Also, since the cost saving is so large, the mayor wanted to remind everyone, once again, that he is not looking to replace our full-time officers with part-timers, but to use them to fill in the holes and shifts to ensure Morrisville Borough has at least 2 officers on duty all the time. Without the availability of using part-timers, it would jeopardize public safety. I want to emphasize that we have been explaining this to council for several years now, that it doesn't cost the borough, but saves the borough money by using these part-timers. So with that being said, I'd like to introduce Andrew Nagel to council and to the borough. Andrew still needs to complete his background, his physical, and the psychological tests before he is sworn in, and then he will begin his field training. Thank you. So this is Andrew. Thank you. Any questions for me? All right, thank you, council.
Chief, I know that one of the Borough Council had asked for a report, an analysis. Was that being done or not being done?
Analysis on what?
About part-time and the usage?
There was an analysis that was sent to the borough manager last week of what, how many vacation hours and things like that all the officers get and what we do. But analysis, I still, I did see that from Mr. Yeager. I'm not quite sure what they were looking for that.
I could speak to that. So it's pretty much the same thing I've asked for in the past. I have never been afforded the opportunity to get. It's really more or less a capacity plan, right? So the question is, and I think it's prudent for council to on any spending decision at all, is what's the need, right? So all it really is saying is this is the usage currently, and this is what we forecast the usage to be. That's why we need to add additional staffing. It's really that simple. I'm not asking for anything intricate, nothing that would take very much time. Just literally, hey, this is where we are. This is what we're using, and this is what we forecast needing to use in the future. That's why we need to add to the staff.
Okay, Scott, did you get a email from me last week breaking down my officers that are part-time as well as all the hours my full-time officers could use if they did use their time? And that was the reason why we need more part-timers than we have.
If it's what I'm thinking of, it was shared with council in their delivery.
Okay, so that was sent along to you.
Which delivery, sir? I don't remember seeing that.
Yeah, I don't
Did you
remember.
send it to me last week?
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Then it would have been in Friday's delivery. If I received it. I don't recall seeing it, but.
I don't recall seeing it, but I'll double check.
Ms. Sherlock, go ahead.
We did receive something from the mayor that broke down where we are with our part-time position now, but I'm not sure if there was a more extensive analysis. I'm not sure I saw that, but do you remember, did anyone see that memo from the mayor? How we have one we have one that's out right now, and two people are sheriffs, 2 part-timers, and they can only work the weekends, so it's a lot of juggling. But as far as
Ms. Sherlock, that's not what Mr. Yeager is asking, but I did send that. That was the resume basically for Andrew, stating a 2-line paragraph of what my part-timers do, the reason why I don't have that many of them. And the other thing was a whole complete different memo that was sent to the manager about how many hours, vacation, Kelly time, sick time, if they end up using those hours, how many hours I would need from part-timers not to have to go into the full-time overtime.
I did not recall seeing that.
I didn't see that. Can you send that to all of us, Chief?
No, I'll send it to the manager. Everything has to go through him. But I'll resend that to him tomorrow morning.
Thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Chief.
And I also, Andrew, I Googled you. I saw that you were really involved in a lot of police things much earlier than just going to college for police work, right?
Yes.
What got you interested in it?
So I grew up in the Mercer County area. I grew up in the Princeton area. I kind of made the decision to get into law enforcement because I had gained experience in the field of emergency services with the Princeton Fire Department, the Princeton First Aid and Rescue Squad. I kind of fell in love with the idea of being out in the community and, helping people any way I could.
Oh, that's great.
Thank you.
If we vote yes, welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. Manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. President. I only have a couple things for you this evening. The first is, as we all know, we had a recent snow event. Isn't it pretty? Nor'easters are always fun. Fortunately, we didn't receive as much snow as was anticipated, but it was still a mess. So, as with all snow events, we receive a handful of compliments and a fistful of complaints. We're, of course, mindful of all of that. And we're monitoring another weather event in the forecast for this week. So we appreciate everyone's patience during snow events. The second thing I'd like to point out, I did not mention this at last month's meeting because we were pressed for time. Council's already aware of this, but for anyone else who's interested in knowing, Morrisville Borough was awarded a community development block grant by the Bucks County Commissioners and the amount of $125,000 for the continued installation of ADA compliant curb ramps. And this project will complement our road paving program. So we're hoping to get this started in the summer of 2021.
Okay.
Thirdly, if you haven't already noticed, we have made the Citizen Reporter feature and function available on the borough's website now. It's actually available in a couple of places on the website. If you would like to check it out, the Citizen Reporter allows residents to make requests for service and report community issues electronically that then get routed to the appropriate person or department to be dealt with. So if you haven't had a chance to check it out yet, take an opportunity and try it. We've done quite a bit of testing on it. I think we've got the bugs figured out. And last but not least, recently I distributed to council a copy of, at the request of the fire chief, I should say, a copy of legislation in Pennsylvania providing for incentives for municipal volunteers of fire companies. And this is, of course, tax credits. The fire chief sent this to me, asked me to share with council, which I did recently in one of your deliveries. He thinks it would help the fire company greatly in terms of recruitment and retention of volunteer firefighters. So if council would like to discuss this at a future opportunity or task it to one of council's committees for further discussion, that would probably be most appropriate. And unless you have any questions for me, that's all I have for you this evening.
Mr. Mitchell, I have a question. During our public comment, a number of times I heard the topic of the Stockton building come up and how it's, an unpleasant view to look at. And, being on council, I'm aware of what the situation is for the most part. Can you give a brief update on the Stockton building and what's going on with the redevelopment of that?
Sure. The borough is working with the county in two parts, basically, the County Redevelopment Authority and the County Industrial Development Authority. We're going to be entering into a three-party agreement, hopefully after the new year, where the RDA will then start the legal process to take over that property. It will be funded through the Industrial Development Authority. The borough will be the benefactor, and we will be, the RDA, in cooperation with the borough, will be soliciting RFQs, basically requests for proposals or requests for qualifications from various developers, builders who are interested in stepping in and redeveloping that property to its highest best use, which of course we believe is the retail space on the ground floor and residential units on the upper floors. This property, as most of you know, has been a thorn in my side since I came here. It's been an embarrassment to the borough for a decade or more. And quite frankly, the steps that we're taking now are long overdue, and hopefully we can expedite this. But the lawful taking process through court proceedings will probably take about a year to complete. And then we'll be soliciting proposals for the redevelopment of that building. That's the short answer.
And one more question on that. When you say that the RDA is going to be taking the properties, are they taking the properties and will they be paying fair market value for them, or will they be taking them and paying nothing?
Well, the court will determine through the taking process the just compensation to be paid to the owner. You don't just get to take someone's property. In any kind of situation like that, appraisals are done, and a judge will determine the just compensation that the government is to pay to the property owner to take over the property based on its current condition. Fortunately for all of us, the borough and the county, the building is in such poor condition that I think it will be a reasonable figure to be paid. And the county has agreed through the Industrial Development Authority to fund the taking process as well as the project management costs incurred by the Redevelopment Authority. All, of course, they'll be paid back out of the proceeds of the sale once it's finished. But again, the borough will be involved as an equal partner without having to invest any borough funds into the project, and will ultimately be the benefactor of it.
Okay, and just to extend on that, and I'm going to stop at the point where you went into talking about the county financing it, but the same process for going through the government would apply should we move ahead with the Williamson Park town center. I know people were concerned about us, just going over and ripping land out from the church. There's a process in place, and we're just not going to go through it.
Oh yeah, of course. Whenever you go through the blighted property process or eminent domain or any kind of government taking of private property, there are appraisals done. Those appraisals are presented in a court of law. They're reviewed by all parties, and the court determines the just compensation to be paid by the owner for the government's taking of the property, and away we go from there. That's how it's done. That's the law.
Mr. Parker, I have a question for
Go ahead.
Mr. Mitchell. So who is the owner of the Stockham building right now? I thought.
There's more than one.
Okay.
Because the building has technically been subdivided, so to speak. So there's the owner who owns the ground floor and the common area and the roof. And then there's an owner who owns the upper floors, which would conceivably be the residential units. So there's multiple parties involved. There's litigation involved on the property. There's the whole question of the cell tower revenue. This is not going to be one of those that chugs along and suddenly we're at the finish line. There's going to be starts and stops because there's a lot of bizarre factors involved in that property that are going to have to get unraveled.
It's taken nearly 2.5 years of work to get it to this point.
Yes.
That's correct.
Yes.
Okay.
These things don't happen overnight.
But it's nice to see some movement.
Back to Justin's point, though, regarding the Williamson Park. So, am I to believe that we will be considering the park blighted and use the urban redevelopment law to take that property?
I don't believe so. I think the process of taking through the government doesn't need to be a blighted property. It's for best and highest use. The government can petition the courts for that, I believe. Scott, stop me if I'm wrong.
Well, I'll yield to the solicitor on the law, of course, but I believe it would be basically an eminent domain process. And the redevelopment authority can do that more expeditiously and can cluster the various parcels involved for the project than any other entity could. But I'll defer to Randy on the specifics.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the redevelopment authority, we're talking about the Stocking building, we'll go through it with them and they'll pay. The parties will either negotiate, they can't agree, the board of review, and if they can't agree, it eventually gets decided. And then a decision comes out and hopefully that resolves it. And I can't predict if one party were to want to appeal or what have you, but generally that's what happens. You just can't, government cannot just take private property.
Okay, I get that, but the urban redevelopment law has been mentioned a couple times, and even by the LLC. And I was just curious where we stand with regards to that law. Do we still have negotiating capabilities, or is this just eminent domain? I guess is what I'm asking.
Well, I believe anything can be negotiated. Last resort.
Let me say this. We're nowhere near that. First of all, it's not part of this. That's that next motion. But since you've asked it, it's a good question. We're nowhere near that. There's 20 steps before we can get there, which is why when I contacted the churches, I said, there's nothing to talk about yet because this council hasn't authorized anything at this point. If and when it gets to that step, the developers and RDA will reach out and try to work out an amicable, because right now we have the use for free, essentially, right? It's ours for free. But if we're going to take it and use it for something different, they want to be compensated. And we don't even know, truthfully, I'm not even sure how valuable, I'm saying this with all due respect to the churches, those claims are very old, very murky. I'm not sure legally how even sufficient they are at this point. I'm not saying they're not, I'm not saying they are. But once that all gets tossed and we look at it, if in fact it's valid, they have valid claim to this, and these are the present people that have the interest. I mean, there's a lot of, then of course they would be compensated. So there's a lot of ifs before you get there. And that's way down the road.
Should I save my question for when we get to that 9J? Or, I mean, Ted, what would you prefer? Because I have another question. Should I save it for that discussion?
I would.
All right, fine. Okay. Because my question I wasn't addressing the churches at the time. I was addressing the borough and how the government will take from government is kind of how I'm seeing it. But we'll wait till we get there. Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Mitchell?
No, I have nothing further this evening unless you have any questions for me.
Mr. Mitchell, I have another request. Can you give a quick update on the hookah lounge? I know that was a popular topic at the last meeting.
Very popular.
Yes, several citations have been issued against the operator. They are pending with the court. As I understand it, the establishment, and this may have changed, but the establishment ceased operations in light of the state's newest COVID-19 restrictions. I don't know how long that will continue or if that's going to change when they expire after the first of the year, unless they're extended. But the borough has citations pending at the court against the operator of the establishment, and we've cited them previously twice before, and they've been fined both times. So I have a feeling that's going to be a theme that continues until we reach the point where we can take more direct legal action against them.
Mr. Parker, one quick question on the hookah lounge. They have their hours listed up to 3 a.m. Is that actually even permitted in an establishment that has alcohol? I thought that was against the OBC.
I believe it is because they do not sell or serve alcohol. It's BYOB.
So if it's okay, so all hands off.
Yeah, so they're essentially an unregulated business. They have no formal county health department or state LCB or any kind of licensing that you're thinking of.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anyone else? All right, we're going to move on to 8D, committee reports. Does anyone have anything? All right, we're going to move on to action items. 9A, call for a motion to approve the Borough 2021 meeting schedule. Can I have a motion?
So moved, Nancy.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Just wanted to clarify, this was the original schedule that was sent out that we tabled or took off the agenda last month?
Yes.
So for Monday nights?
Well, it was also confirming with the school district about continuing the joint meeting. So that was another consideration. Anyone else? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, moving on to 9B, a call for a motion to adopt the 2021 salary schedule. Can I have a motion?
So moved, Nancy.
I'll second it to move it forward. Discussion? All right, hearing none.
Actually, could I add something to that?
Sure.
A number of these salaries are per contract, just so the folks know.
Yes. Okay, anyone else? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. 9C, a call for a motion to adopt the 2021 final budget. Can I have a motion?
So moved, Nancy.
I'll second it to move it forward. Discussion?
Mr. President, I have a question for the borough manager.
Go ahead, sir.
Did we get any updates from the water authority after their meeting last week? I believe we asked they were going to consider increasing the amount that the water authority contributes to the borough.
I made the request to the executive director, and he was going to bring it to his board at their meeting last week, but I have not received an update beyond that point.
The only thing I say is it was discussed, but at this point, it would have to be discussed after the beginning of the year. I think it was through the end of January. Was anticipating bringing it up again, and they were also going to send a request to the borough for more information about the actual time on task for the borough employees on MMA projects. Don't quote me on the exact wording of that, but that's how I understand it.
I'd like to comment on the budget, if I may. This original budget was presented to us with an 8 mil increase, which we knew was just almost impossible. But thank you to Scott and those on council who brought things forward so that we could reduce it to where it is now. Doing the best we can after not raising taxes for a number of years.
I do have a question, Scott. I'm still a little confused. I know we had a back and forth going on about the street lighting fund. I thought that fund would reduce taxes another $250,000, but it didn't. And I'm not clear as to why finding some of the money in the electric did not do that.
Because that money in that electric line item wasn't supposed to be there. The fund total for the street lighting fund was and has been correct.
But it wasn't, because it was like 99,000, and then when that error happened, it went up.
I'm talking about the millage total for that fund is and has been correct and has not changed. All we did was rejigger some of the line items, which is what I think what you're referring to.
Right. Well, I guess I'll work with you next year a little bit more on that because I'm not clear why that wouldn't have reduced it. Because I get what you're saying, but if we find money that doesn't need to be there, I would think that would lower the mills more.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to work with you or anyone else, but yeah, it wasn't that it was a reduction. It was just moved to other categories.
Anyone else? All right, let's do a roll call on this.
Councilman Bowers?
No.
Councilwoman Halahal?
Yes.
Councilman Parker?
Yes.
Councilman Paul?
Yes.
Councilman Robinson?
No.
Councilman Robinson, are you still? Yes, we hear you.
I'm called in on the phone, and I'm also on the Zoom, but there's something wrong with the phone. Can you have Terry check that?
Sure.
Because I tried commenting before, I couldn't get in. I'm on the phone. I'm on the phone now, but I'm on my iPad too.
Sure. Yeah, Terry, can you check and see if we can readmit Councilman Robinson? I think he's in the waiting room.
Taking a look, it looks like there's no one in the waiting room, but there's a couple folks on the phone. Let me see.
Yeah, he called back in on the phone.
I'm on my phone
line
and I can hear everything.
You can see Scott.
Okay.
I see Scott.
Scott, can you hear us?
6.
Oh yeah, there you are. We got you now.
Okay. Hey, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. Let me turn this iPad down.
Okay.
Sounds like the old meetings in Borough Hall. I'm a yes for that. I'm a yes for that.
Okay. So 9C, call for a motion to adopt the 2021 final budget. You're a yes?
Yeah, I could hear everything. You just couldn't hear me.
I just wanted to be sure. Okay. Go ahead, Virginia.
Councilwoman Sherlock?
Yes.
And Councilman Yeager?
No.
Okay. Budget passes. All right, move on to 9D, a call for a motion to adopt the 2021 tax levy ordinance subject to court approval. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. All right, hearing none. Can we have a roll call, Virginia, please?
Yes. Councilman Bowers?
Yes.
Councilwoman Halahal?
Yes.
Councilman Parker?
Yes.
Councilman Paul?
Yes.
Councilman Robinson?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sherlock?
Yes.
And Councilman Yeager?
No.
Motion passes. All right, moving on to 9E, a call for a motion to approve the payment in the amount of $11,987 to Capital Health as final payment per the EMS fund as of 12/31/2020. Can we have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Second. What? Take your pick.
Yeah, that's up to Mr. Mitchell to figure that one out. We have a motion and discussion.
Just like to say, I know in the last year, I have not gotten any complaints about Capital Health.
Absolutely. None. Absolutely. Very professional organization, and I knew that from the beginning. Very glad that it worked out well for the town. Actually had to have them come to our house on an occasion. They were extremely professional and spot on with their treatment.
Nice.
Never can tell what happens when you run into somebody in the diner at 3 o'clock in the morning, Ted.
Very true. Anyone else? All right, hearing no further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, motion passes. 9F, a call for a motion to approve payment in the amount of $22,229 to the Morrisville Fire Company as final payment per the fire fund as of 12/31/2020. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion?
I should ask this for the last one as well, but Mr. Mitchell, did we receive all the proper paperwork to make the payment?
Yes, we have.
Okay.
And I believe you've made it very clear that we wouldn't make payment until they did.
That's correct. Sometimes we have to chase after people, but eventually they relent.
All right. Anyone else? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, motion passes. 9G, a call for a motion to approve the PMRS updates to the non-uniform pension plan. Can I have a motion?
So moved. It's Nancy.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion?
I have a question, Mr. Parker. What
Go ahead.
exactly, this, I guess, Mr. Flager will tell us, what exactly were the updates? Like, I didn't have the last one to compare. What did we have to add or subtract?
So I can answer this. It's not so much as a adding or subtracting. It's just rules and how they administer the plan, and that need to be updated every once in a while from PMRS. These are actually regularly scheduled updates for the pension programs that are just in how they deal with the rules and the funding and everything like that. And
Okay, so the requirements came from the actual PMRS, not
right. These are not
something we chose. Okay, thank you.
No. I'm sorry, Nancy, when you asked that, my computer froze. I'm moving and everybody else is standing still. So sorry about that. Thank you, Scott.
That's okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And yes, these updates are done about every 5 years.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstention? Okay, motion passes. 9H, call for a motion to approve the PMRS updates to the uniformed pension plan. Can I have a motion?
So moved. Nancy.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion?
And this came from them as well, Nancy, and
Thank
everybody
you.
in council.
Anyone else? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Moving on to 9L. Call for a motion to adopt an amendment to the update and clarify certain provisions of the Borough Code by amending Section 435-4 temporary and emergency regulations to better define the times and circumstances of emergency regulations. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion?
A question for the solicitor. Does this impede in any way on how our officers can continue to conduct closures, including how to handle weekends and unexpected issues?
No. What this is there is state laws and state regulations that deal with closures, and this is just cleaning up the language to make sure our ordinance is in line with those. So it doesn't affect emergency situations where there's, like, say, an accident, there needs to be emergency repairs, something goes wrong. No, it doesn't affect those. This is really just making sure we're following the law and our ordinances are in line with the state law.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. 9J, a call for a motion to accept the conceptual proposal submitted by Select Morrisville for the Williamson Park Town Square project and to authorize the borough staff and professionals to engage with Select Morrisville and the Bucks County Redevelopment Authority to aid Morrisville Select's completion and submission of a full subdivision and land development plan application for the project in compliance with all borough ordinances and the Pennsylvania Municipality Planning Code. Boy, that was a mouthful. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
I'll
Is that
second
Mike?
it. Yes, and I'll second it. Discussion.
Mr. Parker. Oh, go ahead.
No, you first. You were in
Whatever
first.
order. Just like to comment that I think that I can't speak for all of council, but I believe that this decision is somewhat heart-wrenching and one that none of us are taking lightly. I'm certain, losing sleep over it as well. I have to agree with some of the participants this evening that I do believe that there should have been more, or should be, some more input from the entire town, and there didn't seem to be a lot because the first one was a bit of a fail. But I just want to say, Mr. McGrath, he's an admirable man, and I believe that he can do this he can take this undertaking and with the right people and his financial backers, and I know that I'm pretty sure he could do this project. But I don't think I'd like to see people not compare this to the project in Newtown that he did. While that was a successful one, it provided shopping opportunities for the residents and all the new developments that came there. Whereas in Morrisville, it's more of a case of build it and they will come. This plan is expected, when completed, to bring about 1,000 more residents to Morrisville. And the reality is, I think this project is about money and not necessarily money in our pockets. The money is in the rentals. The businesses are being built in order to accommodate the prospective renters, which is why they are a package deal. And I do get that. I understand the relationship between the two. And that's the selling point for the apartments. But there's no guarantee that this project will enhance our other businesses. I know that that's a possibility, but there are no guarantees. Sometimes, and most times, those others are left behind. And someone mentioned the smoke shop leaving. I said, no, the smoke shop is going to look this as an opportunity that you have 1,000 more residents living across the street. Possibly 50% of them would need the, the smokers, smoking joes, I'm sorry. So, but the question is, do we want to give away our parkland that can never be regained? And do we want to change the landscape of the small community to one of a bustling disruption for the residents? And this really is proposing a village within a village. And rest assured that this is not a project that will solve our small school district finances. We're not talking about the elephant in the room, which is the school system. And yes, if you say we make $500,000 in taxes off these buildings, and that would be after the LRTA, the school system will get 3/4 of that, and the borough will get a 1/4. So I just let it be known that much of that money is going to be going to the school system. So I just don't believe that this is the solution for our school system. And the impact to the daily lives of the residents on Park, Central, and Delmore, North and South, cannot be understated. I mean, it will be immense, and it will not raise the value of their homes. It will devalue some of those homes. Those are my thoughts of the projects as a whole, but I'd just like to comment a couple of the pieces of this project which I think are somewhat flawed, and that's I'm not happy about open space for development's sake. And there's not enough green space in this project, which I'm hoping, if it goes through, that we certainly can work to have more. Right now, as I understand it, there's 40 acres, and we'll get 12 of those acres. And of the 12 acres, 7 of it is the hill on the dike. So that's, as someone pointed out, that's not really usable space. And I'd like to respect the fact that they're thinking about leaving that one baseball field in the middle with regards to the historic purposes of it. But I do believe that that is a bit of a sore thumb. I think it's not necessarily putting a field in the middle of a development as well as commercial. It just doesn't seem to be very practical to me. and adding to our residential percents when all too often the complaint is that we have way too many rentals. I'm not against rentals at all, but we do have what's 47% of our population are rentals. And I think it's something, do we want another 662 apartments? Because that's what the proposal is. Now, I realize we haven't gotten to the point where we can actually negotiate some of that, but I think McGrath has been pretty clear that the investors want to have that number. So, which brings 1,200, close to 1,300 parking spaces. And it doesn't show tennis courts, basketball courts, and so forth. And the proposed Veterans Park, which is behind the current Mr. Franklin's property, that's all wetlands right there. I'm not really sure how that could even be developed into a usable park. But I'm not the engineer here. So, and no matter what we do to try to contain traffic, I really believe it will be out of control. That Park and Central folks, they're boxed in. They have nowhere to go. And also we have the tot lot now, which is going to be sitting in the middle of a development as well. And that might work for some of the people, but not those in the apartments, because we've already been told that we're not targeting people with children. So again, that seems like a bit of a sore thumb there. But I submit that if this was in someone else's backyard, that there would be a bigger uprising. Just to get an idea, we talk about parking space. I think there's 1,365 is what they're proposing parking down there. And just to get an idea, the giant shopping center has parking for 200. So multiply that by a few hundred. And I also would like to mention that we need to remember our decades-long relationship with Morrisville Little League before we throw accusations around. I agree the times have changed and maybe our relationship with them has changed, but we had a very long relationship with them, and for the most part it's been very respectful on both sides. I know the last couple of years have been a little rough with regards to money and so forth, but I say, at what price are we? What price is this to and the amphitheater? I don't think that the amphitheater would work well right in that neighborhood either. They said it wasn't parking for 6,000. It said it could possibly seat 6,000, but that's 3/4 of our population in town. I just don't know that. I think a much viable thing if we have open space would be something that would be more multi-use rather than seating, permanent seating. So we don't have our financial study yet, so we don't really know what the taxes will bring in. And I'm surprised, someone mentioned earlier that at this point in time, you should have some kind of idea of what all this is going to bring. And just, I guess, one last thing is about Newtown. Again, if I bring Newtown up just for a moment, one thing Newtown has that Morrisville doesn't have, and that's a bypass, to be able to bypass all that traffic away from the center of the town. Our bypass in Morrisville is Bridge Street, and it's just, I just want people to think about that for one moment. And I know I've said quite a bit, and I've said quite a bit to residents too that have contacted me. So most of my thoughts are, they're all really similar. I think the project is huge. I'm not against development. I would love to see I'd love to see that corner, the Franklin corner, I think would be perfect. If the people of North or South Delmore, I don't know how they feel about it. But with the Franklin corner being gone and spruced up and all those storage units gone, I think that sounds like a great thing. And I'd love to see the similar thing across the street on Bridge Street. But I don't know that we should be giving away 30 acres of the parkland. I think we need to really think hard about this, especially when we know that most of the money will be going to the school district, and which we just keep throwing money into the school district, and I just don't know that we're sustainable. And I think that's the elephant in the room. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you. I think Mr. Yeager was waiting.
Thank you, sir. So I too wanted to touch base on a couple things. I may have a little different view of this than Nancy does, but just first, I'm going to touch base on Newtown because it is thrown around a lot. But I think people are misunderstanding how it's thrown around. It's about the aesthetics of the building he put up. If you look at what he did, not what it did for the town, but what that development looks like in that small town setting, it's beautiful. So when I say go check out Newtown, it's so you can see the aesthetics of the building, the amazing architecture and work that was put into those buildings, not to mention the quality of restaurants and stores that he's able to bring in. So there's two pieces to this thing. One is, can it be built? The other is, can it be filled? You're talking about a developer who comes with a huge amount of experience, and I've spoken to him in depth. I know pretty much everyone on council has it. I'm sure everyone on council has at this point to some extent. The guy goes back to finding properties for Woolworths. This isn't a fly-by-night guy that's built a couple of buildings. He's been constructing and putting together buildings for commercial use and for residential properties for many decades. And so when I hear how, it can't be built because there's water, we can't do it because of this, I have to look at this and say, I got a guy with decades of experience doing just this telling me absolutely this can happen. So I have two things to look at in that area is, do I want to go with gut opinions or with actual experience? I personally have to listen to the actual experience. So that's one piece. So, if you're interested, go check out what he did in Newtown. And it's a beautiful building. It's really nice. If you want more information on it, it's out there. Early on today, we heard a realtor talk, and there's a lot of philosophies when you bring development in, what it does to the rest of the surrounding area. You make it walkable, and you're going to find that it's going to help the businesses in that area. And I have brought up in the past in like meetings, because, by the way, we've been talking about this for about 2 years now. This isn't something that just popped up. We've been discussing this, guys, for 2 years. And one of the towns that I brought up before, and I'll bring up again, much larger than us, but the same type of setting where they have a downtown, they have businesses that they're managing, and they have a lot of residential properties, is Morristown, New Jersey, and North Jersey. Are they different from us? Absolutely. But my research and my personal experience in that town is this. I watched over a 20-year period a town that was struggling to get stores to stay open, declining real estate values, and just a heap of mess everywhere you looked, turn it around in about 20 years. It takes time, but in about 20 years, they turned that around. And here's a couple things they did. They had solid fair code enforcement across the boards. Everybody knew what to expect and how to expect it, and they understood what was expected of them. Now, I can tell you, because my father-in-law lived there, the first time they put a red tag on his trash because he didn't tie up his boxes, he was pretty pissed off. But with those small actions came some solid processes and a belief from the surrounding area that they were handling their business properly. The other thing they did was, and I'm not necessarily, this is what they did, is they put in more. If you don't have a place for people to park, they cannot walk to your store. As soon as that parking was installed, and I mean a significant amount of parking, you couldn't find a store with a vacancy in the window. Why? Because everyone could now park and get to that store. I could tell you, personally, because I shop in town, I go to the barber in town. I until HL closed their doors about 1.5 years ago, I was in their store constantly. Maybe it was a year ago at this point, and I could tell you, talking to the owner of HL, part of their problem was there's no parking. People couldn't really park and get there. You're parking across the street. You're running across Bridge Street traffic. There was no way to park somewhere and just walk up the street. That solves a big problem for all of those stores. And we've got conflicting information here, because we've got some people saying that, well, by doing this, we're going to raise the cost of living and we're going to push people out. And on the other side, we have people saying this really isn't going to affect the cost of living. It's just going to end up as Section 8 housing. Well, somewhere in between, there's the reality for me. I don't think that there's any one silver bullet that's going to save Morrisville, but I think that there's a path that we need to look at to say, what is it going to take to revitalize, and how many opportunities are we going to have in front of us to actually do it? This may be a once in a lifetime. It may not. I have to view it as a once in a lifetime because there's no guarantees it'll ever happen again. I truly believe that it's going to positively influence the other stores, and based on my experience in the mortgage industry, at least, I can tell you that when these things happen, property values increase. More available resources brings in more people. Additional jobs in town will bring additional people, which makes the town more desirable and makes the price of real estate go up. So one final thing, and I know I get passionate about these things. I hope it's taken as is, because I really think that this is a good thing for us. But I do want to point out that I've had a lot of people that I've spoken to as well, whether they reached out by email, I've talked to them on the streets, friends, acquaintances, neighbors. There's a huge divide on this. There's as many people talking to me that want it as there is that don't. So I personally, I could live with being the guy who made the wrong decision for the right reasons. I cannot live being the guy that didn't even take steps to find out what the full story is before I made a decision. We don't know the full story. If we turn around and say no today, we have to live with the idea that we didn't even listen. I personally won't be walking the streets of Morrisville going, you know what, 20 years ago, if I had made that decision, it could have been good. I can be the guy, if it's the wrong decision, to take the responsibility for it, but I'm going to listen. And what this vote is do we want to listen? Because right now, that's what the developer wants to know. Is this worth investigating and looking at? And for me, I need to walk around knowing that I at least got the entire story and found out what all the variables were before I said no. Thanks.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, Mr. Parker?
Go ahead, sir.
I'd like to make a motion that we table this resolution until next month's meeting. I don't know if I can do that at this point since we've already discussed it, but based in large part on the public comments that we had tonight, and also based on Mr. Yeager referring to the fact that we don't have the full story, I think it's premature to vote on this tonight. I think that even though we've been living with this for about 2 years, or some of you have been living with it for 2 years, I've known about this for about 18 months. The first the public heard about it was August, I guess, of last year. But then after a large public meeting with lots of comments back and forth and a lot of outcry and a lot of emotional energy generated, things kind of quieted down for about a year. And then Mr. McGrath and his team picked it up again and wanted the borough to at least give his acquiescence and endorse the plan, or at least buy into it to proceed with it. In light of that, they scheduled the meeting in November, which of course we all know lasted several hours, I guess about 6 hours. And we had people lined up in parking lots waiting to get in. Those that got in, they couldn't hear each other speaking. People trying to attend by phone like me could hear bits and pieces of it. Some people were in the dark. You couldn't follow it very well. And following that, in meetings that some follow-up conversations with the developer and his team, we suggested that they put on a public disclosure kind of forum, that they contact the Economic Planning Commission, that they speak to the Environmental Advisory Council, to socialize all of our citizens with what's going on, give everybody a chance to ask their questions, to make their comments, and to inject as much transparency into this process as possible. And I think that we've done a pretty good job of that over the last month or so. And I think a lot of that goes, a lot of the credit for that goes to you, Mr. Parker, and to Mr. Mitchell, and to the borough staff, who've done a remarkable job of upgrading all of our technology so that we can host many more people by Zoom, that we can have conversations where people can hear each other, where they can see each other. And I think that the dialogue has improved dramatically. And I think both sides, whichever side of the fence you're on, I think they feel like they're at least being heard at this point. But as we heard in some of the comments tonight and some of the emails that
Excuse me, Mr. Paul, Mr. Councilman. Mr. Paul, your motion to table takes precedent over anything. You just need a second. There's no debate on it. You made a motion. I didn't want to cut off the council person, but
I'm sorry, Mr.
You made a motion. You made a motion to table. Is there a second?
I will.
If there's not a second, then it dies.
I will second that.
Okay,
I don't think it's going to go, but I'm going to second.
It doesn't go. You don't explain. There's no motion. Second, Mr. Chair. Now you call for a vote on whether to table. There's a motion for table, and there's a second. Now there's a roll call.
Okay.
Roll call, Virginia.
Mr. Flager, is there any discussion on the motion to table? Or
there is not.
No.
Okay.
So I apologize for all that.
You're fine. You're fine. You're fine. I just wasn't going to cut you off. You were having a West Wing moment. I didn't want to cut you off. You were doing great.
Okay. Virginia, can we have a roll call?
Yes. Councilman Bowers?
No.
Councilwoman Halahal?
No.
Councilman Parker?
No.
Councilman Paul?
Yes.
Councilman Robinson?
No.
Councilwoman Sherlock?
Yes.
Councilman Yeager?
No.
Okay.
Motion to table
The
fails.
motion to table fails. And now the motion itself is being considered. I'm sorry to interrupt there.
No, that's fine. Thank you. Mr. Paul, would you like to continue or?
Well, I'll just wind up my remarks since I stopped in mid-sentence with the last oration. But I do want to say that this is a really tough issue. And as Mr. Yeager said, meeting people in the street, I think, and I've told Mr. McGrath this and his whole team, I think this town is split pretty much down the middle. It's very hard. This is a 49-51 sentiment, but we're here to exercise our judgment on behalf of the residents, and we're going to have to do the best job we can doing that, taking into account all the fine comments we've heard from both professionals and the residents. And it's a tough one, but I think that I do want to make one cautionary tale. When we say we better jump on this bus because it might be the last one to come through, that sounds like an act of desperation, and I'm not sure that we're at that level yet. We have a lot of problems with our budget shortfall. We've got a lot of problems with our tax base. We've got a lot of problems with our school system. We've got a lot of problems fighting COVID. We've got a lot of problems with the economy. But I wouldn't necessarily say that it's either vote for this project or nothing at all. I think that we have to take each project individually, and if we like this project on the merits, fine. If not, then we'll wait for another one. But there's a very, very tough decision, and it's not. I don't think it's as simple as, well, we've got to vote for it because this might be the last chance we have, and I don't want to be the guy to be the one to pull the plug on it. So I also agree with Mr. Yeager. You got to make the decision for the right reasons, whatever that may be, and let the chips fall where they may. Thank you.
Ted, can I comment?
Yes.
So I did take notes of who voted yes and who voted no, and excluding non-Morrisville residents, it is divided equally. And when I speak to the residents in town, it seems to be divided equally as well. I think there are a lot of misconceptions, and I know Nancy mentioned that Newtown, Morrisville doesn't have the bypass, but Morrisville does. It's called Route 1. And so people can use Route 1 and not come down Bridge Street. They can also use the Calhoun Street Bridge if they don't want to come through the main section of town. Some of the other things is I know that they've been talking about, what amenities are in the park. I need to stress that this plan is just a concept plan and that the residents will have a lot of time to come to the planning meetings, put in their input, have their ideas considered, put out there, and even incorporated into what the park will look like in the future. And the other misconception that I keep hearing is that MLB will be split up. And I know I have been talking to McGrath, and we are looking into options to keep it together, moving it down to the Manor Park section, perhaps. Correct, Mr. McGrath? He's here in the building, and he just nodded yes to me. So there's things that people are working on and they are considering, and the council is concerned, just like the residents are concerned. And I would like everyone to keep an open mind in this development.
Thank you. I was basically going to say exactly what Ms. Halaho said. It's very early in the staging of this plan. Mr. McGrath has made it very clear that the final look of the open space will be up to council and the Morrisville residents. It's not what's on the conceptual plan is not, it's not in stone. It is a fluid project, and there are a lot of things to overcome in this project. And we're just saying we'd like to see more of this project and see your final plan. And so that's why I'm voting yes at this point. I'm not really a real big fan of losing open space, but I think what we will be left with can be much more than what it currently is. I mean, it's, open space is nice, but if it's underutilized, and I know people say that it's utilized, but I can tell you from personal experience being down there at all hours of the day and evening, that there are times when there are no baseball games, that there are myself and 3 or 4 other people in 40 acres. And that gets even less after dark, unless you're down there for, less than honest reasons. But I'm not going to say we're desperate, but I don't see a lot of developers beating down the door to invest, upwards of $125 million in our borough at this time. And I think we should at least consider it and work with him to see what the final project could look like. And like I said, we have a lot of time to offer input and direction. So that's why I'm voting yes at this point.
Mr. Parker?
I'd like to also add that some of the open space that is in Williamson Park will move down to the Manor Park area. So that does open things up.
Yes.
If I could add a couple things.
Then I have a question. After Scott, I have a question.
Oh, good. You can hear me. I would like to echo some of the sentiments that Councilman Yeager said about this not missing out on this chance. Now, from the beginning of this, when this plan was first initially brought up, my first reaction was shock, and I said, "No way, this can't happen. We can't do this." I've had the privilege of being on council now this is going on 1 year now, and we need to do something in this town with the finances. We can't continue to go on forever. Not specifically speaking to individual Lower Makefield residents or Falls Township residents that are in the Little League. And so I'm just going to make a blanket statement towards the Falls Township and Lower Makefield that I know each individual person isn't responsible for the school situation and whatnot, but there's a majority of people in the Pennsylvania district that do not want anything to do with the Morrisville schools. And if you look at it like that, if it wasn't, maybe if we merged with Pennsylvania 10 years ago, we wouldn't have to do this. There's a give and a take. There's a push and a pull for everything. Our school district's in bad shape. We have to do something. As I've seen the plans, morph into. There's a couple different sets of plans that, you know, they've changed a little bit. I spoke to Mr. O'Brien from the Little League, and I am an advocate for the Little League. Like everyone else that talked tonight, I grew up, I played in that Little League for 10 years. I do not want to see the Little League go away, and I don't believe the Little League is going to go away. I will not support anything that does not provide the Little League with a facility that is as good as, if it better be as good as or better than what they have right now. A complex down in the Manor could potentially be a state-of-the-art complex for the Little League, depending on how it's placed, how the fields are set up. The parking could be closer to the fields. You could go from one field to the other. I know it's a 10-minute walk from the softball field to the senior minor field at the north end of the park. A new complex would consolidate everything. Two of the fields, the kids could hit home runs into the river like they do in San Francisco at that stadium. As far as the 1955 Little League field, I get it means a lot to people. It means a lot to me. I played on that field for 3 years. That's the last field my mother ever saw me play on. She died when I was 13. However, Yankee Stadium got torn down, and they put a new one up, and life went on. So to the Little League people out there that are watching or that are going to hear, you have my support. I do not. I want the Little League to have what they have, if not better. And as far as the residents that are for and against it, I've had more residents come up to me privately and say they're for it than that they're against it. And the people that are for it, I said, come out and speak. And they don't want to come out. They don't want to be shamed by their neighbors that don't like it. They're said, I'm just telling you I'm for it. So there are people that are for it, and I get that there are people against it. And to circle back to what Councilman Yeager said, I couldn't have said it better, that in 20 or 30 years, if this project backfires, and I'm still going to be here. I was born and raised in this town, and I don't plan on going anywhere. I've told people I'm going to die in this town. So if this project goes through and it dies, I'm dying with it. I'm going to be here. I'm not going anywhere. And again, they're not going to be bringing construction trucks in tomorrow morning and tearing stuff down and building apartments. This is going to be a process. And the reason that I'm voting tonight, I'm going to vote yes for this, is to explore and to look at it. Okay. They could easily change my mind in 6 months. Mr. McGrath could come to me in 6 months and said, well, we're going to have to do this. We're going to have to do this. And I have no problem telling him no. No, I don't. I will tell him no in a heartbeat if I don't like what I see. Everyone else might like it. I don't care what everybody else wants. If I don't like it, and if I have enough residents come up to me and say, Scott, I was really for it, but it's not really looking good right now, then guess what? I vote no. It's that simple. And there are going to be multitudes of meetings that people can come to between the zoning board, the planning commission, the borough council meetings, for people to come out and speak about it. I just want everyone to just not emphasize the hyperbole and the mistruths and the whatnot. I've heard the phrase gentrification thrown around tonight. Quite frankly, I have no idea how this project could even be called gentrification. The basic definition of gentrification is improvements, but people are being displaced. No one is being displaced with this park. We're not throwing anybody out of the park. If the true definition of gentrification, I'm sorry if you hear that beeping, that's my UPS truck starting up. It's gentrification is when you improve an area and you displace people, and generally speaking, they can't afford to live in the area that was redone. We're not throwing anybody out of the park. No one is being displaced. So I don't know. I don't see how this could be called gentrification at all. I don't know. If you look at the gentrification in the dictionary and look at this project, and you can connect the two, I would love someone to explain it to me, because I don't see it. Anyway, I've been babbling for a while, so I will let someone else speak if they wish to speak. Thank you. Thank you for the time.
Thank you,
Mr. Parker, I have a question. I know you gave me time. I appreciate that. But my question is you say that we are able to tweak this down the road, but right now the proposal is 40 acres for this project. So as the motion reads, we're accepting the proposed plan. Now I realize we don't have all the intelligence yet, and I cannot say yes to this unless they can promise that there'll be a storm sewers study, a traffic study, a financial plan, and a flood study. And unless those things are part of the so-called going forward, I can't vote to go forward, even though I want to know more so that we can make intelligent decisions. So I don't know. That is not in the motion.
I would think that you would need a plan to actually have a flood study or rainwater mitigation study. At this point, it's a conceptual plan. We're accepting the conceptual plans, and these are benchmarks that the developer will need to meet and need to modify. And again, if his design, which is conceptual, needs to be modified to meet any standards, then they will change. So that, at this point, you can't have a flood study for a project that is just conceptual at this point. He needs to come up with a plan that he will submit to the proper agencies and departments, and seek permits and build what he needs to build. But we're accepting the conceptual plan to allow him to move forward and start that process. And those hurdles are hit. Those hurdles are his to jump over.
Okay, I get that part. Okay. But the conceptual plan includes 662 apartments. So how can I say, yes, go ahead and find out with 662? I mean, is there any leeway in that? Is there an expectation that once he starts doing some of this, he has to knock it down to 400? I mean, I don't really know what he's offering. And I still believe that there should have been some maybe not permanent, solid financial numbers, but I mean, they got to know how much one apartment building would bring in with regards to taxes. I mean, you have multiple examples. You can just go to Plaza Boulevard and look up there and find out how much those taxes are. And so I don't know.
I think the problem with that, Nancy, would be you're going to compare something that was built in the 70s to something that's now built. They're going to have totally different values, and as you know, the millage rate is going to be based on value. So if we're talking about $125 to $150 million project, I mean, do the math to get the millage rate. It's going to be significant. And as far as the LERT is concerned, remember I think the last contract we had with Morrisville Little League for this area, we were getting $7,000 a year to help defray costs. But there's a per acre value to this. The way the LERT is set up is there's a period of time and an escalating percentage. It's not that they're going to not have to pay taxes in the first year or two. They're going to have to pay it based on the value of the land as it is. So even with that as something that we put out there, council still needs to approve any LERTA offers that come before us. There's no pre-approved LERTA. There's just the
concept. I get that. Thank you, Mike. I get that.
We've
I do understand that.
Apply for. Okay.
We still have.
I just want to make sure because we were going off the rails a little bit with the what's it going to impact us. And again, you'd have to base that on the value of the property, and you can't look at something that was built in the 70s and value it the same way.
Okay, markmanship is different. I get that, but I still believe that the land is ours. The land is ours to have, and the fact that we would consider it to be blighted, because that's been thrown around quite a bit. At the last presentation, how it's unkempt and it's really looking sad, and that that's sort of the talking points now to get us to the point where you can say yes, it's pretty blighted. We need to do something with it. And I actually don't appreciate that part. But there's no guarantee that it'll be less than 40 acres that he's going to use. And that's my concern. I mean, I know we don't get guarantees, but I just, of course, we're not hearing from the developer, but who's to say that he says, no, I have to use all 40, or it just doesn't work. Our investors are saying, this is it. I need all of that and all of the stores. And so if that's the case, and just one last thing, I promise, I appreciate everyone's patience listening to me, but this is a very difficult situation. This is not something that, we're not building a little corner store. This is a massive, complex project. And I'm not against development. I only wish it was industrial development, which we have no place for. But trying to squeeze this project into a tiny little 2-square-mile town, I think that also is somewhat little inappropriate. And you talk about an amphitheater. If you go to Ben Salem's amphitheater, they're surrounded by acres and acres and acres of open space to have that. So while I hope we get a stage eventually, I don't think an amphitheater is going to work. But that's way down the road. I get it, way down the road. But back to Scott's position about state-of-the-art fields. Who's going to pay for them if we get them? Is that in the developer's plan to build state-of-the-art?
Yes, he said that, Nancy.
Okay. All right. Because early on he did, but then the last meeting, John didn't say that that was going to happen. They said that they would be looking into something.
Right.
So again.
Well,
no
I think if Mr. President, if I could clarify a couple things. First, the agreement with Morrisville Little League is for $10,000 a year. I think prior to the current contract, that was $7,000. Second, Williamson Park is not blighted. It might be not as pristine as it once was, but it is not a blighted property. It does not qualify for blighted condition. Third, I believe Mr. McGrath's updated presentation clarified what they had said previously in the August 2019 presentation, is that the developer will set aside funding for displaced recreational fields to be developed wherever the borough wants them, but it will be the borough's responsibility to determine what is appropriate and to construct those facilities, but it will be paid for by the developer. So council is going to have the final say on that particular point, just to clarify that. And I don't know if this helps or makes matters worse, Mr. President, but the applicant and his attorney are actually present in the room should you decide you would like to hear from him or get any clarification from him tonight before making a decision on what you want to do.
I mean, does anybody else have a question for him besides Nancy's? All right. Would Mr. McGrath like to address some of Nancy's concerns?
John or Joe, do you want to say a couple things? Keeping in mind that it's 9:40 and some people turn into a pumpkin in about 20 minutes.
Oh, it's happening fast.
I had not planned to say anything tonight. We were here just to listen, but in case questions came up, we were here. But in response to the last topic, what I'd like to say is Mr. Mitchell stated exactly what we stated at the last meeting. And Mr. McGrath has just confirmed to me that that is, in fact, his intention with respect to the recreational facilities. It will be budgeted. There is no intent to end up short on recreational facilities. But what I said is we do need the cooperation of the borough to identify the locations. It will be budgeted. That's what we did promise.
Okay, very good. But I go back to the 40-acre, the project itself. I mean, again, we can't get guarantees. I totally understand that, the business, we can't get guarantees, but what happens if you realize that the project will only work if you have it as proposed to us right now?
Well, what we did say at the last meeting was, and Joe was asked that question, was do you need as many apartments as you have? And our answer has been yes. Part of this project is not all on borough property, however, and I think if you recall, I indicated that there were 12 properties, private properties, that were under agreement that were a significant part of this project. Also, the Bridge Commission properties are an important part of the project. You need a certain mass in order to make a project like this successful. We believe that this works. In fact, I think if the project is successful, I think what you're going to see is the project, not the project itself, but the type of town center that we're proposing is going to expand, not contract. We think that this is the amount of property that we need. We don't see it shrinking.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else?
I just have a quick question for him while he's at the podium. If we vote yes on this tonight, and this is just to clarify for the public because I'm pretty sure I know the answer already, 6 months from now or a year from now, if council changes or decides that, this project's no longer fit, Select Morrisville does not have any legal right to pursue the council or the borough to say we're in breach of any sort of contract that we've done, correct?
That's correct.
That's absolutely right. Right now, we don't even
Get the question for our solicitor.
Excuse me.
Your solicitor.
Yes.
You're both solicitors. You're giving me the right answer.
What I was going to say, and I was listening to council and the public very carefully, both what they said and what they wrote. This motion is only for them to finish their land development plan application in compliance with all of our ordinances and the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code to submit. It has to go through a million procedures. You can turn it down. They can't, if you vote no tonight, the project is dead completely. You'll never ever see what it could be or what it wouldn't be. And that's fine. That is a legislative function of this council. You have every right to vote either yes or no. If you vote yes, 6 months down the road, the project can still run into a roadblock because you may not like, the development plans, or you don't want, there's 100 little things that we have to cooperate with that need to be done, and there'll be all these steps. So this is just allowing them to present a formal plan so you can then critically examine it. And I think somebody asked the question like, who pays for all the professional time? The developer does. I'm in New Hope now, but I was on New Hope Borough Council for 8 years, so I'm still thinking of my borough days. Morrisville Borough does not pay for any of the work of the professional staff working on this. That is from an attorney, from a developer's escrow that comes from there. So that answers that question. And as to the other question, you can't have a referendum on this. So I thought somebody saying we should have a referendum. It's not permitted under the borough code for this sort of thing. You elect a council and they make the decision. So that's all I have to say, and I'll shut up, and then council can do what they wish on the vote.
Mr. Parker, I have a question for Mr. Flager.
Oh, 1 second. Mr. Bowers, did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. Are you finished, sir?
I do have some other comments, but if Nancy wants to ask her questions, I'll just stick to mine's altogether.
Okay.
After Nancy. Nancy.
I just want to know what Randy just clarified, that, all these things all these steps. I realize there's probably 42 steps before we get to where we need to be. But so having those studies that I'm convinced we need to have, you're saying, are they required by law or by Pennsylvania planning?
Yes. Yeah, I can answer your question. Many of the things that you've asked for are required by the our ordinances and the municipalities planning code, and you have to deal with you've got the the dike, and you've got certifications, and you're dealing with riparian rights. There are a million regulations. It is so complex that it could cross your eyes. I mean, for this project will take years, even if Morrisville is in favor of it. I mean, it's just that complex. And yes, they're going to have to do a traffic study, and they're going to have to certify that the levee is good. They're going to have to do all sorts of. They're going to have stormwater, figure out where the stormwater goes. Because remember, under modern Pennsylvania law, you cannot add to the stormwater load. So you have to figure out what you're going to do with the water. You're going to store it underground. You're going to have however basins, however you're going to do it. You can't flood the town. This can't make the water situation in the town worse. And there's a million regulations like that, all of which have to be fleshed out. None of which will happen if you don't let them take this next step. And even then, some of it may not happen because you may not like the project 6 months from now. They may come back with a plan, and you just may hate it and vote it down, and that'll be the end of it at that point.
So as long as all these studies that I really feel are necessary are included in your so-called, is that Pennsylvania Planning Code is also the MPC? All of that's included.
The MPC, yes, the Mid-Size Planning Code, the zoning,
and Morrisville's as well.
You have the Commonwealth, you've got water and sewer regulations, you've got, it's endless, the amount
MS4.
You've got all kinds of stuff like that, and many more that have not mentioned. Yes.
Well, then I'd like to say, as much as I feel that this is not the panacea that people think it is for the school district, and to save the school district and have all these taxes brought in, the only reason I believe I'm going to vote yes for this is because those studies, number one, are covered. And I said this before, even though I feel like I may be the negative Nancy here. But as long as those studies are covered, we need more intelligence. We need to know what I do believe we need to know before we make a final decision. And I don't want to take any of that land. And I certainly don't want 40 acres taken from us. But I want to see what they have to say.
And some of those studies, I want to be very clear here, Nancy, some of those studies will not be done like the next month or next 3 months. They're down the road as they approach that problem. I mean, they're not there yet. What I'm trying to say is it's all of those studies, if this project were ever to come to fruition, all of those studies would have to be done and complied with. But there's no saying they'll even get that far with the project, because it may get stopped somewhere along the line because you may not like, I think what Scott was saying, we just may not like the project in 6 months. All right, it'll be your prerogative.
I sure hope so.
Anyone else?
President, I just want to make some comments.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, Mr. I forgot you, Mr. Bowers. Go ahead.
That's right. I'll try to make it brief since everybody's touched on a lot of subjects that I agree with. I want to go back to Bob Paul's comment about transparency. One of the reasons I didn't vote to table this is because I believe this project has been spoken about much in public. And if you believe that we need more input, then there's nothing that stops us, or as a governing body, from taking more input in the months coming forward. We could set up a committee or do something and have more public input. There's nothing that stops that. This project, if we fast tracked it, it would still move at the speed of government, which is slow at best. So it's not going to go anywhere, in 6 months or a year. It's going to churn for a while before anything moves forward. And I agree with Mike's sentiment about, these projects don't come along every day. I've lived in the borough for 12 years, and I can't tell you of one building that has been knocked down and built up again in those 12 years. Prior to me moving here, when I worked here for the Bridge Commission, I think in 2004 or 5, the Renaissance building was the last rehabilitation we had, or revitalization. It's one building in 15 years now, going on 20 years. And since I've been on council for 3 years now, there's been one person that's come in with plans to redo the washing, the sip and spin building. And that's probably going on a year ago now. And that hasn't really gone anywhere. So these projects, I think we need to sit and listen to everything, especially when it doesn't cost us and doesn't lock us into anything. As Mr. Flager has said, we have plenty of opportunities in the future to say no or change our minds or ask for changes. But I think it's in our best interest that we don't say no now and that we proceed and keep listening, especially when there's no cost to us. Pardon me, I lost my train of thought for a second. On that note, I'll just, that'll be the end of my comment for now. Moving along.
Ted, I just want to add one final thing. I know, Nancy, you said that it's 40 acres, but I just want to clarify that the borough does not own all 40 of those acres. Williamson Park is 33 acres in itself, and we don't even own that. So we're not really taking away whatever land there is from 40 acres.
Thank you for that clarification. So we have 33 acres. And
no, we don't have 33 acres.
I'm sorry.
We don't.
Minus the church?
Correct.
Right? So we have 26 acres, and we're getting 12 of those acres. Is that? I've not got clarification of that. I mean, that makes it sound like we're getting half of our park back. So, which sounds better than the first time. But again, these are just numbers that I don't know how true they are.
Anyone else? All right, we're going to do a roll call.
Hope I vote right.
Virginia, can you do a roll call, please?
Yes. Councilman Bowers?
Yes.
Councilwoman Halahul?
Yes.
Councilman Parker?
Yes.
Councilman Paul?
Yes.
Councilman Robinson?
His mute's on.
Yes.
Thank you, Scott. Councilwoman Sherlock?
Yes. But I
And
want everybody to
Councilman-
remember my comments. Thank you.
And Councilman Yeager?
Yes.
Motion passes. All right. Been so long, I've lost track of where we are.
9K, Ted.
9K. Call for a motion authorizing the borough solicitor to enter the borough's intervention into the New Horizons zoning appeal for TMP 24-008-624 250 North Pennsylvania Avenue with the Bucks County Court of Common Pleas.
So moved, Nancy.
I'll second it. Discussion?
Question, what, is it the Flagger Associates or is it our zoning officer?
No, it's us.
It's you? Okay.
You're authorizing us to appeal the decision.
Because we do have a zoning solicitor, right?
You do, but we're appealing their decision.
Their decision?
Yes.
Oh, you're appealing our zoning, okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well, quick clarification. The property owner or the developer has already appealed. We're intervening into the appeal.
Correct.
As a third party representing the borough's interests. The zoning solicitor represents the decision of the zoning hearing board. We would be representing the borough's interest, and obviously the developer has its own attorney.
And I don't want to talk publicly here, but we've had some of the comments that were made, really good comments made at the zoning hearing board that were critical of the plan. There's a very good chance many of them can be worked out. So we're hoping that it can be amicably resolved with the conference and with the meeting of the minds, so that we can minimize the expense to the borough, and the borough can get a a higher tax paying parcel back on the books.
Thank you.
Mr. Flager, did we discuss this another time? Because it's not ringing any bells for me. Maybe I missed it.
This is, no, you'll remember this one. This is the Curtin and Hefner building.
Oh, I know the hearing, but did we discuss it as council?
Well, I don't think we discussed it. They made a decision. We have a certain period of time. We have a certain period of time to authorize us to file the intervention. It's already in litigation. The appeal, the zoning hearing, so we have to enter. We really don't have a choice. We have to enter our appearance, and any resolution would then come back to council for approval.
Ms. Parker, or actually either Randy or my understanding, we did get some information about this in our packets, Justin, but as far as discussion, we're actually supposed to remove ourselves from the zoning board and be very neutral about it and leave it up to the solicitor. So no, there wasn't discussion, and I think actually that's a good thing, because
I get that. I'm just making sure there wasn't something I missed, and I want to make sure.
No, you guys were smart. You let them make a decision. The developer appealed that decision, and we then have to intervene on behalf of the borough to try to work out.
So from my knowledge in the public's, essentially the developer is appealing the decision by the zoning hearing board to not allow 20 apartments, but keep them to 2.09 per acre. And it's a 0.39 acre lot or something like that.
And there's a number of other. There were a number of.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Randy.
There were a number of issues. They didn't like the fact that there weren't washer and dryers in every unit. They thought there was too many units. All of those things. We've been in contact with the developer's attorney after they appealed it, and they would like to work those out. And they'd like to see if they can come up with a solution that council will be pleased with.
Okay, but that costs us money in the sense of we have to use our attorney, to go to court to intervene, to say, hey, give us a chance to negotiate this outside of court or with court. Yeah, well, of course. It's litigation, so of course there's a cost, but we're going to try to keep it. We are trying to avoid a full-blown, 2-day trial in Doylestown. So we're going to talk to them. My next question was going to be, what's this going to cost us? But
I have no idea.
But we're doing this to minimize cost.
Yeah, we're doing this because we don't want to get dragged in. I think there's a solution that council will be happy with. And when we'll discuss that in executive session, what I need tonight is that you authorize us to intervene. And then we can talk about it in executive session because it's a legal matter under litigation. And then we can have executive session, discuss what we'd like to see and what our demands are and what have you.
Okay.
Okay? Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes. Moving on.
Mr. President, I don't want to be a stickler. Did we have a motion and a second? Did I miss that?
It was Nancy and Ted.
Okay.
Nancy and Ted.
Okay. I spaced out. I apologize, Council.
All right. It's getting late. Okay, moving on to 9L. Call for a motion to approve the annual contribution of $3,000 to the Morrisville Senior Service Center, Inc. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion? Okay. Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. 9M, call for a motion to hire a part-time police officer.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion?
I'd just like to say that I think He seems like a very nice candidate, very qualified, and I'm happy, and hopefully it works out well.
Anyone else? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, motion passes. 9N is a call for a motion to appoint a new council member from the First Ward to fill an unexpired term to January 3rd, 2022. Let's get a motion in a second, then I'll tell you how we're going to do it.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Second, okay.
We'll give that to Mr. Bowers. What we're going to do is we're going to do a roll call, and at the time of the roll call, we have 3 candidates, and or if anybody else has a candidate they wish to add, you're going to say the name of the candidate that you're selecting, and if we have a majority for one candidate, that candidate has been selected. If there is no majority, we will take the first and second highest vote getters and try it again. So being we have an odd number, there's the potential that we might not have a first and second. We'll just have to do. Go ahead,
Mr. President, are you nominating? Is everyone going to nominate and then
they're going to say who
one?
out of the 3 we have? They're going to say who. This is the way we did it last
time. Are you going to mention so the public knows who the 3 are?
Actually, if I could just clarify, there were 4 applicants.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know about who was the 4th one.
Regina Wallace. If you like, I'll name them.
Yes, please, because I only know of 3.
Regina Wallace, Catherine Price Engelhard.
Okay.
Todd Sanford.
I did not see Mr. Sanford's.
And Dwayne Nickel.
Okay.
Mr. Sanford's came in, actually, he didn't put a date on it, but this went out to you guys back in October.
I don't remember seeing that one. Wow. Okay. My oversight. So we
I
have
don't
4
think
people.
we saw that. Right?
Yeah, I didn't see it.
He was for the zoning board.
Yeah, zoning board.
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. You're right. It was to be the alternate to the zoning hearing board.
I'm sure he would be shocked if we had voted for him for
Guess what? You're back.
I stand corrected. It's the 3, yes.
All right. So is it?
That would be funny.
That would be.
Call him and he said he wasn't interested.
All right. So we have 3 candidates. Mr. Mitchell's named all 3 of them. Like I said, you can add if anybody feels inclined to add Mr. Stanford, they could add him. But so that's how we're going to handle it. We've handled that before for other appointments. So Virginia, can you do a roll call and you will be selecting a name that you're voting for the position.
Okay, Councilman Bowers,
Regina Wallace.
Councilwoman Halaho,
Dwayne Nickel.
Councilman Parker,
Dwayne Nickel.
Councilman Paul,
Catherine Price Engelhard.
Councilman Robinson,
Dwayne Nichols.
Councilwoman Sherlock,
Dwayne Nickel.
and Councilman Yeager.
Regina Wallace.
So Mr. Nickel has won the nomination. Congratulations. Mr. Mitchell, since I don't assume anybody's there to be, and we don't have it, well, I guess you can do that. Can he be appointed at Borough Hall at his earliest convenience? Sworn in, rather.
Yes. I will contact him tomorrow and go through various arrangements and arrange a meeting to orient him on where we're at with things.
Okay. I appreciate that. All right. So that's the last of the action items. Is there any other business? Please say no.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
We're not there yet. We still have to do borough officials.
I know.
Does anybody have anything they want to add?
I'd like to say Merry Christmas,
Yes.
Happy Holidays, whatever holiday that you are celebrating. Kwanzaa, Christmas, Happy New Year, be safe.
I'd just like to thank everybody who showed up to this meeting and is voicing their opinion. Whether we agree or disagree, you're a big part of the process, and I appreciate all of you getting involved.
And
this is what gets you involved, so be it.
And to Mike's point, don't go away.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. I'd like to wish everybody a happy holidays, no matter what holiday you celebrate. I'd also, like to thank Mr. Mitchell. I know he got a lot of heat after the last meeting. I am thoroughly impressed with the technology upgrades and the ability to have the public join the meeting for their public comment. It's helped a lot in allowing us to hear, more people than we would have if we had only restricted it to what people could attend at Borough Hall, or what they sent in through email or regular mail. So I'd like to thank him for that, and whoever else was involved in it. It's been a tremendous help in handling these meetings, remotely, and hopefully soon, with the 2 vaccines on the horizon, we'll be back to regular meetings and packed in like sardines again up on the dais. Anyone else? All right. No one else? Nancy, make your motion, please.
A motion to adjourn.
I will second that motion. All right.
Beat you, Ted.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night. Happy holidays.